We are live.
Good
Hey,
thing.
everybody. Welcome to the discussion panel for Killers of the Flower Moon. And we're going to be talking about this movie that came out 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks ago at this point?
Yeah.
This movie did?
2 weeks ago.
So, yeah, I think I think this is a good time to have this discussion because it's given enough people time to see it. You know, it's so that's how that. Oh, I can hear myself. Okay. But welcome, Shags, and welcome, Litigation Jackson. You guys are probably familiar with some of these people. Jackson, if you want to. Well, Jackson was on a stream with me. We did a Criterion stream.
Get a
and then
Criterion stream. We should probably do another one of those at some point, honestly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I got some new ones.
Oh, excellent.
And then Shags is midweek hump. And go ahead and link your. You know what? I have mods. I think if you guys want to link, it's in the description. But if you just want to like post in the comments or in the chat, their channels, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I occasionally upload.
What's that?
I said I occasionally upload. I guess you could subscribe.
Yeah. Well, I posted your Twitter. I hope that's okay. But you're
that's
not really
fine.
on there.
I mostly just shit post on Twitter anyway, so
That's what we do.
That's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of prioritize. I have like a triangular. I have like what's that called? A triforce on Twitter. I shit post. I talk about all my hobbies.
yeah.
You know, I kind of like geek out, and then I will. I guess the other part of that pie is like talking about politics. Sadly, I gotta stop doing that shit. But like,
No, please don't. No, don't do that. Because no, you are one of my favorite people to follow because every time I see you post something, I always get like 10, sometimes 20 people to block. Okay.
That's
like,
that's
by the way, for those of you that don't know me on Twitter, if you even casually annoy me, I will block you immediately.
okay.
Like, I won't even engage with you. I'll just be like, that annoys me. Block. So I've blocked like probably 3,000 people on Twitter at this point.
They might undo the block ban at some point, and you're gonna have a flood of people that you're just like, whoops, here they come. So we're gonna talk about Flower Moon. Marc The Cyborg is joining momentarily.
Yeah,
he saw it. Everybody here saw it.
Yep.
Chat. How many of you saw it? You know, you can let me know in the comments. We all saw this pretty quickly, like opening weekend.
Yeah.
You guys, did you have a full theater?
I saw it last week. So I mean,
I
live in Lexington. So whether or not I have a full theater is honestly really inconsistent because like Lexington is a city of like 400,000 people, I think. So it's pretty small.
That's bigger than mine.
Now we have a really nice Regal theater, and we have a couple of really nice like sit down and have good food.
Well,
we have one of those.
I have a bunch of those.
So we have one of those, and then one Regal, and like one AMC. Oppenheimer was stacked. Oppenheimer was busy as all hell. It was a full theater, very respectful actually. People weren't talking. Flower Moon.
Yeah.
2 old white ladies, 1 middle-aged black dude, and 3 kids, and that was it.
Wild.
They all liked it, but it was not a lot of people.
There was this statistic that they announced that like 50% of the people that went to see this movie were under the age of 35. And it's like kind of interesting. We have this like we have this like youthful sort of movement of young like sort of cinephile people that like just like at movies. I don't know how much of that is like we'll talk about it in a second. Sort of like Scorsese's attitude in general on like superhero fluff, kind of like theme park style movies. People maybe are kind of sick of it, so they're just like, well, Oppenheimer made $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
So
there are certain fan bases though that like,
I
don't mean to sound elitist and mean, but I'm going to because I want to. You'll see them react to things, and you're like, "How stupid are you?"
There are
like when Ahsoka came out, and everyone was like, "This shot is fire! Oh my god!" And I'm like, "We need to start shooting Star Wars fans out of cannons." I swear to God.
Yeah, there's
they were like, this shot is fire, and I'm like,
I almost want to.
that's like,
I'm gonna try to find this thing from TikTok because it's kind of
Yeah.
funny. If I can, oops, here, let me go back to my. Wait, yeah. Like, there's this funny video on TikTok of these two Marvel fans talking about this movie, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh God.
And it's very cringe.
Really?
I think Shags. Did you see
Color
this
me
video?
surprised.
It's from TikTok.
Are you gonna share it?
I can find it. Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
It's also a little cringe that you're on TikTok, though. I'm gonna be real, brother.
No, I'm not on TikTok. These get posted on Twitter.
Okay, dodged a bullet. Good job.
Yeah. By the way, Scorsese's on TikTok.
No.
Well,
Marty!
his PR person is on TikTok. He's probably not on TikTok.
Well, he does these TikToks with his
his daughter.
His daughter.
I mean, it's father-daughter bonding. I'll allow it. That's fun.
Right.
I gotta find it. If I find it, I want you guys to give me your brief summary reaction to Flower Moon, and what you thought of it, and maybe talk about your just initial takeaway from it, and then
Tom, you're on the bottom. So
go
you
for
start,
it. Yeah,
and then I'll go, and then Lofty will top us off.
Well, I think this movie I think it's a great movie. I think it's not without its shortcomings. Even as someone who was really excited for the storytelling, a new Scorsese movie, I found myself in this second third or the last third of the movie really looking at my watch. I thought it was not as well paced as he could have made it. There were some really, really amazing visuals in this, some great acting performances, some miscasts that I thought he could have improved on. But, we know Scorsese likes to use his usual people in his movies. But I think in my head, I rated this as like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10 when I left the theater. I thought that was pretty fair. It struck me as Scorsese's starting to get into his Kevin Costner years where his movies get a little bit longer, not quite as good as they were. But I think DiCaprio did a stand-up job. And I heard the actress's name is
Lily Gladstone.
Lily Gladstone. I think stole the show in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And what I'm interested in after seeing this movie is reading the book and understanding the history behind this. I think Scorsese barely missed on this film. It got a bit self-indulgent at the end, and I was a little disappointed when I walked out, but I was happy I saw it. Are we saying whether they should see it in the theater? Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this is a movie that people could wait till it comes out on streaming services. I don't think you need to go to the theater. I don't want the theater experience to go away. I want people to continue going to the movies, but 3.5 hours is a long time to ask someone to sit in a theater. And I said, and if this movie was better paced, I would say go see it. On the scale that it is, there's some really beautiful, establishing shots in here. Some set pieces are beautiful. But I would say wait till it comes out on streaming and check it out then. Don't miss this movie. But be aware it's not without its faults.
Yeah.
All right. So I had the exact opposite reaction to the length, actually. If you sat me down, like Lofty, let's say you and me went to go see this movie, right?
Yep.
You sat me down, so we watched the movie. We get out, and then you turn to me and ask me, hey, how long is this movie? I would have said, oh, shit, 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the length at all. In fact, when it was over, I thought, oh yeah, okay, okay, and then I got up. I didn't feel the length, but I think the reason for that is I am used to very long movies. One of my favorite movies is Ben-Hur, which I believe is 3 hours long. And I also really like Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, which is 4 hours and 5 minutes.
That is a great movie. Yeah.
Yep. Well, Gone with the Wind is 4 hours.
I enjoyed Gone with the Wind. So I think I'm also used to very slow movies. Some of the movies I recommended when we did our Criterion episode were pretty slow. I would say Drive My Car is actually pretty slow, Lofty, and we both really like that movie.
There's a slow. It depends because I roasted Ahsoka for being slow, and it's like when you are a comic book television show, and you don't have a lot of depth to your kind of
that's always the problem, right?
When that's slow, it becomes very there's nothing to think about. You're just staring at characters looking at each other. And with the slow movie like this, right? Or any other slow movie that's kind of super serious. Schindler's List is a good example. We'll talk about that too. But like there's so much to think about sort of philosophically, historically, that it's not a problem really. But it depends on the movie.
So for me, what a lot of these, how should I put this? A lot of the debates about length, I think, really come down to how much you enjoy / get out of like audio storytelling when it's just purely visual.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Because if you're not getting swept up in it, I could kind of see where if I wasn't engaged as much, I could be like, oh, I probably would feel the length a bit more. But I think because I was so invested, I didn't really feel the length because I was always just like, I was really engaged with it.
Hello. I was just about to hop in the chat and be like, yeah, I've been here for a while.
Sorry, it's
okay. It was my fault. I got really pulled into the new RoboCop game.
It looks awesome.
It's really good.
It looks awesome.
There's never been a better RoboCop game for sure. Right, even if it ends in the next mission and the story sucks.
Wow.
It's just like it really kind of nails making you feel like RoboCop. You feel like a giant deadly tank. Though I recommend playing on normal difficulty because hard mode makes the enemy spongy and it makes you squishy. Oh. So it's like you kind of don't feel like RoboCop if you play it on hard. I was like, this is kind of something's a little off here. Like, because I'm dying in like 5 hits, and I have to shoot this random ass gangster with no body armor 30 times in the head to kill him. But
RoboCop should be killing people in one shot, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's on normal difficulty. It's a lot closer to that. It's still headshots still take people out in one kill in one shot on hard. The problem is body shots kind of do nothing. And that does seem a little bit weird because it's like, well, I mean, they should be going down a little bit faster.
Well, headshots and body shots in this movie take people out instantaneously.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. In most cases, if you're shot in the body, you will not live. It's really hard to live when any major trauma happens to your body. Speaking of Ahsoka, I heard you guys.
Oh my god! I could rant about that for days, but we're just doing Mark. We're just doing our short reactions to the movie, and then we're going to get into some articles and tweets that I'll pull up and we'll talk about. But Jackson, if you could just let your overall takeaway of the movie. We talked a little bit about the length.
Well, but I wanted to bring up the length specifically because I didn't feel it and because I was really engaged with it. Yeah. I walked out with a really positive experience, and so my immediate thought was, I want to go right back in and watch it again.
Oh wow!
Which I think is a different reaction than a lot of other people had. So I rated this movie an 8. Okay, I really liked it. I really love Lily Gladstone. I think she is the standout in this movie. She's awesome. Oh my god! I think like Leo was good, but everyone around him is just so much better. I brought this up in my short little review that like I'm not a Leo hater, but I'm not like a big Leo stan. Leo is Leo, and Leo is fine is like my saying. Like he's fine, he's good, he's a good actor.
He's never bad.
He's never bad, but he's never like amazingly fantastic. Like Robert De Niro is like. Oh, Robert De Niro, man.
He was great.
So good.
He was great.
But yeah, very positive.
So 8 out of 10. Did you say the same thing, Shags?
No, I said 6.5 or 7 out of 10.
6 or 7. Interesting. Mark, what are your quick takeaway of the movie when you saw it?
I think I'm more on Shag's page. I disliked nothing about this movie.
Right.
So like, I want to be clear about that. I think it was a very competently made film about an interesting story. It's not like the story wasn't interesting or anything. I found it very compelling, and it's done in a way that I think hits all the notes that it's trying to hit for the story that it's going to tell. I think that ultimately, though, I think I was feeling the length, and maybe as you were saying, didn't get as swept up in the visual splendor of the storytelling, because I guess like I don't know, that doesn't hit me quite the way that it used to when I was like, I guess first going to see big movies on the big screen and like being much more particular about how the shots are constructed and being blown away by just really nice cinematography. Now my relationship with cinematography is more when it's really nice, I'm like, oh, nice. And that's about as far as it goes for me. Like if the movie's terrible, I'm not going to be like, well, I mean, but it looked incredible though. It's not really on my radar. And I know it is kind of on Lofty's and to an extent KJ's even. And I'm not criticizing that at all. I'm just saying that I don't really share that sensibility. I think there was a time that I probably did much more than I do now. But I think these days I'm more about the actual construction of the movie and the story and how things are pulled off. And I think that, like I said, everything about this movie's good. So it's weird to say, yeah, but it was a 6, because I think that everything that puts it from and again, I use a true scale rating, not a 7 out of 10 is the pass mark and everything below 7 is a fail. I'm going by 5 is like average.
Yeah.
I think it's very much an above average movie. It's an above average Oscar bait movie even. Like it's an above average movie for like the type of movie that usually gets nominated for Oscars, which I mean, say what you will about the Oscars. I think for the most part, for most of time, up until the last like 10 years or so, most of the things nominated for Oscars tended to be pretty good movies. You know,
I did an Oscars stream and we broke down the last 25 years of Oscars, and we decided to collect in my stream that more than half of them were deserved. You know, when we got to some of them were like, well, you know, Fellowship of the Ring should have won over, I can't remember what it was, Shakespeare in Love or some bullshit.
No, Shakespeare in Love. Oh, I remember that one good. Because Shakespeare in Love beat Life is Beautiful and Saving Private Ryan.
That's right.
And I'm like, everyone always says it's because the World War II vote was split.
But like Return of the King was perfectly you know, a great Best Picture winner, and there's a couple.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think like most of the time when you really kind of look at the movies that won that year or those 3 years, it's like, well, I mean, if we're being honest, it was probably Lord of the Rings all 3 years, right? But like, I mean, you know, the Oscars aren't going to do that. Like, there's no way they will. But I don't know. I think that like I did like this movie though, and I think that everyone should watch it. I just think this is a risky theater recommendation to a normie. I think especially.
Of course it is.
That's kind of more what I'm saying, because as much as like, because I know Lofty and you and KJ are both very passionate about the whole, this is the kind of movie we should be going to see in theaters. And honestly, I had a pretty similar reaction to Oppenheimer, which I did take the effort to go see in IMAX. And I was like, yeah, I mean, there were some cool shots, I guess, but I think if I was sitting right here on this couch with my puppies and could like get up and see if I wanted to
tip the scales.
Well, I mean, like I was just thinking that like ultimately the experience, like I've got a really good OLED TV that it's 65 inches, but I'm like 4 or 5 feet away from it, like from my couch. I mean, like my feet are 4 or 5 feet away from it. So it's not like, it doesn't seem small. It seems very big when I'm actually sitting here watching a movie. I've got a great 7.1 surround sound system, and I don't necessarily think streaming is the go-to, like, this is legit the movie that the way that you're supposed to see the movie. But I think that there's a lot of movies, especially historical epics or like period, not necessarily historical epics. These are more historical
period dramas.
Period dramas. Yeah, I think that's because when you say historical epic, you're kind of thinking like Braveheart or something. It's like, I don't know.
Well, Napoleon is a
Napoleon. I think you could probably call a historical epic because his story is pretty large scale. I don't know if you've heard of this Napoleon. He's one of our finest manlets as far as like things accomplished.
I would say that it's interesting. We could talk about that too. Tarantino just actually was interviewed. I don't know if it was a Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon or something, where he said that he still thinks theater is the way he calls it the collective experience where you're with other people, and there's just totally different vibe that you have when you see a great movie in a theater versus seeing a great movie at home. But then he's like, well, to be fair, when I was growing up, I saw all of my favorite movies on television, like the original The Thing and Citizen Kane, and like movies that he it was on TV, and they're some of his favorite movies. And it's like, well, how you can't really knock the television because it's just it's another way to watch something. But it is a matter of funding kind of plays a big part, right? If movies don't make money, if these movies don't make a lot of money at the box office, we're going to suddenly 5-10 years from now, we're going to see less and less of them, and every movie at the theater is just going to be a Marvel movie at some point.
I disagree. I think the exact opposite is going to happen. Because I think that
Marvel's killing themselves at the moment.
Yes. However, I think that more so than that is economics. Economics having much more to do than even it being piss poor content. Let's assume Marvel Phase 4 and 5 were both like A+, like better than anyone expected that it could ever get after, like, I don't know, Infinity War, Civil War, like, because Endgame is kind of a touchy one. It's not usually the best one to be like, Endgame was the highlight. I'm like, no.
Well, I wanted to say
there were some things about Endgame that were weird, but what I mean is, I guess, sort of to finish my thought, it's that I think more so than saying, okay, the only movies that are going to get huge budget will be the Marvel movies. It's going to be no movies getting gigantic budgets. In fact, the only ones that will get gigantic budget are when it's Christopher Nolan or Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino, who we know are just going to make something crazy that people will go to see. And I don't think big superhero, Cameron, exactly. But I don't think big superhero movies that cost $400 million and then cost another $200 million to market are very sustainable. The Matrix cost $60 million. It cost 1/4 of the price of the Marvels.
I know Dune Part 2 cost $120 million.
And that's crazy low too for what Dune looks like.
I know, compared to what it looks like. Yeah.
It just makes you think that it's like, well, is the problem the money they're making, or is it the money they're spending? Because I think that it's like, hey, I think we could get a lot of great movies, a lot of great action movies, a lot of great comedies, a lot of great dramas, a lot of great horror movies, especially. Well, none of these genres inherently cost tons to make. It's only if you decide, okay, well, we're going to do most of this in a blue screen, and we're going to hire A-list actors who have played this character in 7 other films in this franchise, so they can start asking for $20 million a head, and we'll pay them because we have that much money. I think after all this strike and everything has happened, that's not happening anymore. It can't.
Well, why is this movie $200 million? Like when I look
IMAX film, honestly.
No. It's been in development for so long. There was COVID issues. There was rewrites of the thing. It might have been inflated.
Was this based on
reasons.
A book?
Yeah.
This is based on a book that's based on a true story, and they had to go back and do rewrites.
I'll talk about that because it's going to be very important. I wanted to give my take quick.
How much work does this story need, guys? Because I mean, we got some source material to work for here.
Well, the book is very different than the movie, but I just want to give my take quick.
But it also is a thing that happened too, right? So if you're really hard up for what to put in the script, it's like, well, why don't we check some of the records of like the cases? And
it's more about perspective. It's more about perspective. Like, imagine doing Schindler's List from the perspective of the Jewish people at Auschwitz rather than from the perspective of Oscar Schindler.
Yeah.
It's this movie started from the perspective of the FBI, and DiCaprio was going to play the FBI agent, and that's why they changed it for various. I'll talk about why, because it's important. Once we're going to talk about this little bit of a backlash situation.
Actually, that's actually kind of funny, because I kept on thinking that Jesse Plemons just sort of pops up a little bit in the movie, and then he's gone.
So okay, Mark, you know his character.
Yeah,
the book is from that guy's perspective.
The
book is a whodunit. Okay, the movie is a howdunit.
I've not read the book, so I'm not making any arguments from adaptation. I just kind of knew it was a book. But what I'm saying though is, when watching the movie, I thought, hey, I would have liked more of Jesse Plemons' character and more of how they were cracking the case and how like early FBI worked, like 1910s FBI, I guess.
Yeah. Mr. Smith's comment is my biggest beef with this movie, by the way. It's one of the reasons I take off points.
Before we get into the whole, I want to debate the movie, but
sure.
I just wanted to say quickly, I love this movie. I gave it like a 9. I think I just wanted to get my take quickly, and then I wanted to bring something up to show the chat.
I wouldn't argue against that for the record. It's like, I could see someone thinking it's 9.
I think it's an important movie. I love the perspective. I love the just sort of sitting with like the depravity of these people and like just kind of absorbing it in a way that's like sort of, it's not even really critical. It's more like just you're just like, how the fuck did this happen? And it's like I really enjoyed that perspective. And we'll talk about it. I thought, beautiful cinematography, beautiful acting performances. The ending was incredibly interesting. All kinds of stuff. But I think it's dude. So it's polarizing, but some people love it, some people hate it.
Did Mike Flanagan make this?
We got a membership.
Hell,
Mike
Flanagan. The House of Usher is really good. You should all watch it.
I want to bring this up because this is the one thing I wanted to talk about first. Number 1, where's this at? This is kind of an interesting. We can talk about this. And quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on the Marvel thing, but it's important, and then we'll get into the movie conversation. But you see this? You guys see this string? Okay. Avengers director Joe Russo touts box office over Oscars and playful jab. I want to play this video that they're talking about. It's right here. Let me know if you can hear this. Can you hear this or no?
Nope, but I think you just muted it, didn't you?
You just
no. I gotta do this. I got to remove this, and then I got to add it again with the audio. Did anybody see this, by the way?
No.
Not Joe Russo.
I'm gonna stab my couch with my new leg spike.
Okay, so
I have a leg spike now, everybody.
This is kind of funny. Let me know if this is loud enough.
Show me sadness.
Aw, look, he's got a schnauzer. I love schnauzers. And his name is Oscar. It's really cute, Oscar. Oh. All right, come on, box office.
Oscar.
Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So
it's
a playful
like a dad
thing.
joke.
It's
almost.
not really. It's a dad joke, but it's funny.
I don't
He
really
also
see
has
it
a
as much of
schnauzer.
a jab, but I wouldn't call it a jab. It is funny as a schnauzer, unless he just has a friend who has one.
Isn't this the guy that made Gray Man?
Yo, Jimmy, I need your schnauzer.
Yeah. Now, people are pointing out that Joe Russo, they're taking it very seriously. It's almost like it's sort of childish because if he was serious, it would be cringe. But like box office doesn't really matter in the long run when it comes to being proud of your work. Like that shouldn't really matter.
Yeah, short-sighted.
It's short-sighted. Yeah. It doesn't matter because it's really Disney and the IP that's driving the box office, not Joe Russo.
No.
And so he shouldn't really give a. It doesn't. Anybody could have been in his position, and they would have been box office success.
Right. FNAF had a great box office, but it sucks. So
yeah,
it's not going to stand the test of time or anything.
But it's like, I don't know. People are kind of taking it seriously. Rich asshole hack, the guy who people were like, oh, he made Gray Man. Gray Man didn't make any money and nobody remembers it. And I kind of agree with that, actually. I think people are going to remember Martin Scorsese more in terms of like having a legacy, for sure, than Joe Russo.
People haven't stopped talking about Goodfellas since it fucking released.
Yeah. Taxi Driver. Look, Joker. I said something like, the more I hear people, this bothered me. This is what bothered me. I found it, guys. I think I found this clip. This thing is cringe.
Oh my God. Yeah, I did see this.
Now,
I already don't like the guy.
My point is this. The more I hear people like this kind of shit on Scorsese, the more I'm trying to remember what I said. I was like, the more I appreciate Todd Phillips for sort of homaging Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and Joker, because it's like, Scorsese is just objectively like a cultural icon, and we see it even in billion-dollar superhero movies like Joker, like literally homaging two of his, unsuccessful movies if you compare them to others. But
you know what his face looks like? Looks like God got bored and just hit copy paste.
Yeah,
he's
basically,
but hit another key while doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh fuck. He's like, well, it's fine.
Modern Western video game default character creator. Like, default.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play this because this is
a white guy with like a kind of hipster haircut and a slight chin. Just so you know, he's not that manly.
Default model E.
You're making fun of the guy, but you might agree with him. Now,
I mean, maybe, but like, I'm just saying, it's like, oh man, I feel like I'm going to disagree with him quite a lot.
Okay, I want you to pay attention to
I'm profiling him based on nothing.
I want you to wait for the ending because it's very important what happened at the end of this clip. But anyway,
the argument that the only good cinematic movies that you can have are 2 hours long and boring. I've just never understood that argument. I don't understand why we can't have both. Across the Spider-Verse is an amazingly well written, long, good movie, but it is also entertaining. Has good action, has good comedy. Like,
it's mostly entertaining.
Why certain people only judge movies? I understand not judging movies based on only how entertaining they are. Meg 2's entertaining at parts, fast movies are entertaining, but you can make the argument that they're not good movies because they don't do a lot of stuff well, right? I don't understand why movies that are written well and have a good plot, that's the only thing that matters. Nothing else matters. Well, and there's a good plot.
No, okay, I hate the guy.
And it's good. That's
you almost had me for a moment because I was like, well, if he's like, it doesn't have to be a 3-hour long dramatic epic to be a great movie. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's obviously true.
Right. Wait for the ending though, Mark. It's
oh wait, that wasn't the ending.
That wasn't the ending?
No, it's not the ending.
I thought he was the same shit he was saying at the beginning. Am I crazy?
No. This thing is a little annoying because he's saying that like he's divorcing plot from like entertainment value, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's like, well, a movie with a good plot is sort of inherently entertaining.
Well, he's tying entertainment and writing together in a way that is not good because he's basically being like, who cares if this script doesn't make sense and is poorly written? If it's entertaining enough, it's a masterpiece. I'm like,
it's cringe because I think the movie is entertaining. I was not bored at all, and it's like you just because you have just because you thought it was boring, and that doesn't mean that it sounds like he's saying that he thinks that people like me are like coping and pretending that it's entertaining when it's really not, and we're just like we're coping, but it's not even happening.
There's also the difference, right, between entertainment and engagement.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'm really engaged by a movie like what's that movie called? It's the only good movie that the Swan director ever made. What's his fucking name?
Black Swan.
Darren Aronofsky. The only good movie he ever made. What's that fucking?
The Wrestler.
Requiem for a Dream. The only good movie he ever made.
What? No,
that is an entertaining.
The Wrestler is really damn good. First,
the Wrestler's great. The Fountain is great.
Black Swan is just a ripoff of Perfect Blue, but
no, it's good.
Well, to be fair, that's not too far off. But one thing though that I really want to say about Requiem for a Dream, that here's the only review of it you ever need. It is one of the best movies you will ever watch, which you will never want to watch again once in your life. You will watch Requiem for a Dream once, and that's it. And you'll be like, wow, that was really well done, but I want to kill myself now. So maybe that wasn't the best experience.
It's really good.
That's kind of how I feel about Train Spotting, to be honest. I don't like watching that movie.
Yeah, Train Spotting is not one you want to watch.
It's a rough one to rewatch.
Clockwork.
Yeah. Clockwork is artistically fascinating, so that I love rewatching it.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's a lot to pick apart in Clockwork Orange, and I mean, to be fair, there isn't Train Spotting as well, but I mean, to an extent, Requiem for a Dream, but Requiem for a Dream is pretty straightforward. Also, it's more.
Let me finish this quick.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, because this is funny.
The movie, but I don't understand why we can't judge it on both. Like, you can have an entertaining movie that also has good acting and also is cinematic and is deep and has good character development and all that, but you can also have us just not be bored.
Yeah.
It seems like a requirement for good movies is that it bores a lot of people. And I think that that's just certain people being like, well, I understand it and you don't, and you're not as good as me. I've never understood that argument.
Straw
I
man.
just want movies to have both. I want to
listen,
care and be emotionally invested in the characters and want it to be well written, but also just be entertained and laugh and see some cool stuff.
Like, that's why your two favorite movies are
The Avengers followed by The Greatest Showman.
Oh! Whoa! Whoa!
So his favorite two movies are The Avengers and The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman?
Recency bias, MCU,
so
normie
what we're saying is my profiling of him was dead on.
Yeah.
Dead on.
Yeah.
That movie sucks.
Dude, these guys nonstop, all they do is talk about the MCU. They're such big. I don't like calling people stans or shills or anything, but some people objectively are. Like, if that's all you talk about, there's some accounts on Twitter that are essentially just shill accounts that get paid to go to screenings and stuff. But
yeah,
these guys are like, it's like if you know, Zack Snyder fans or whatever kind of get accused of this too a little bit. Like, just
what's that kid's name? Matt Ramos? Is that his name?
Matt Ramos is the worst.
That guy.
He's the worst on Twitter.
I don't really interact with the Snyder fans all that much.
Right, but sometimes you can just be like too much of a fanboy to the point where. But anyway, it's like we have this Zoomer generation with pop figures behind him and shit, you know, and it's like I'm not going to criticize the guy, but like he wants every movie to be like The Greatest Showman in the Avengers. To me,
The Greatest Showman sucks. You fucking.
No. I think what he's saying is he wanted those two movies to be up for Oscars, and I honestly think that the chance for anyone taking comic book movies seriously at award shows was shot in the head the second they nominated Black Panther for Best Picture.
Yeah.
You know, like if you think Black Panther is a good Marvel movie, more power to you. I wasn't crazy about it, but I know a lot of people who like it.
No, it's bad.
Sure, but I'm going to grant I'm going to grant the, hey, if you're like, well, most of the MCU is about as shit. I'm like, I would argue against that. However, I think that's a fair position to take.
Sure.
But having that be the one that slipped through the cracks and got the nomination just meant that everyone was like, okay, so
pandering. That's what
I mean, we're not serious, right?
Yeah.
Because Infinity War came out like right before it too. Right?
Infinity War is much better.
Oh yeah,
if that was nominated for Best Picture, I would actually kind of understand.
Yeah, to me, it's like between Iron Man and that. Like those are the two very best.
They never would have nominated Iron Man because Iron Man was before it was cool. It was just like that. This is another shitty superhero movie coming out, is what most people thought. And I think the people that had their hopes out for Iron Man, which I mean, myself included, was Robert Downey Jr. being part of it. Because I remember being kind of excited when he started showing up and stuff again after he came back from, his previous life. Yeah. No, I mean, more even earlier than that. He was actually on Ally McBeal. He did like a 5-episode or 3-episode run there, and I remember watching those episodes because my parents watched that show and thinking like, this is the most charming dude ever. Like just everything he says is like you just want to listen to him. And then Kiss Kiss Bang Bang came out and I'm like, I love this guy. So when he was cast as Iron Man, I was pretty on board. But I didn't think it was going to be good either. I was like, okay, but yeah, it's going to be the Phantom or something, you know.
So with
Billy Zane, you're great.
Yeah. Well, so with this guy, it's just like I want to move past it because I don't want to make fun of people, but like it's like he's seeing stuff like, the requirement for good movies these days is for the movie to be boring, and then it's like, you don't get it, you just don't get it. It's like, well, what is this guy? I want to know what he thinks of like The Green Mile or Shawshank Redemption. Like those movies are not entertaining if in the classic sense of the word, but like they're great films. You know, there's a lot of like Schindler's List. I mean, like, you know, just because it's fine if you think this movie is boring. I actually get it. I understand it, but it's not the entertainment value thing. People are, it's just like some movies are great because they force you to sort of think deeply about something, and they kind of they and the entertainment just doesn't matter at that point. It's like if you're engaged intellectually with a movie, like Apocalypse Now is not very entertaining. It's fascinating to watch, but it's very slow and doesn't really have a coherent plot. But it's like, you know, it's not an epic war movie like Saving Private Ryan. It's much more poetic and slow, but it's more about like what does this mean to like kind of the getting to the bottom of what the story's trying to say. I'm kind of rambling, but like,
well, no, but what you're talking about is engagement versus entertainment. That's what I said earlier. We're like, you can be engaged by a movie, but not necessarily entertained by it. That's why I brought up Requiem for a Dream, because like I'm not entertained by that movie at all. But
well, is anybody entertained
by like, I'm very much engaged by it. Well, I'm invested in it.
Look, are you?
I think entertainment, though, I think goes back to the thing I was talking about with rewatches, though. Because that's the thing with Requiem for a Dream. It's a very powerful experience, and it's effective. It's a very, very effective film. It is heartbreaking in a lot of ways, but it still is not a very pleasant experience, even in the sense that because you know what it is because every single one of the characters deteriorates and no one is uplifted.
But Scorsese's early movies are objectively more entertaining, I would say. Like, I would say that Goodfellas, The Departed are more entertaining than The Irishman and Flower Moon. That's just, maybe that's kind of people's issues with these movies, is because Scorsese is actually sort of evolving as a director. His last 3 films are very moody, very much about the tone and about sort of the deeper meanings, especially Silence.
Last 3? Silence. Okay.
Yeah, Silence and The Irishman.
He's hit his late Ozu period.
It's late Ozu, it's late Kurosawa.
I thought it was Irishman, Wolf of Wall Street. That's why I was like, I don't know, Wolf of Wall Street was like kind of fun.
That is his last. That's his last sort of like young Scorsese, like kind of channeling his youth sort of energy movie.
Yeah, I love Wolf of Wall Street though. I think it's awesome. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix my camera.
You can tell by the way he talks. He keeps saying things like, "I'm getting old. I'm going to die soon, but I really don't want to stop telling stories." And he sort of had these existential crises. Like recently, talks about Kurosawa making films into his like late 80s, and he's like, "I finally understand what Kurosawa was talking about in his like he's never going to achieve his peak, directing kind of talent." Anyway, like. It's you can tell he's more mature. Scorsese is trying to be more thoughtful than making a movie about like just depraved, degenerate gangsters like he did in the past. But
I think that might be as simple as just he is getting old, and I think everyone will take stock of their life and in whatever way is appropriate for the life that they lived. And I think if you're Martin Scorsese, you've got a lot of really heavy things that you've done in your life that have affected a lot of people to look back on and kind of take stock of and think about how much longer you're going to be able to do it if you can even make another one after this. Like there's a reasonable chance that this was his last movie. I think he's just going to keep making them until he dies, but
of course,
eventually one of them will be his last one because we all die sometime, man.
So
people
here's
are immortal.
The last thing about the MCU I just wanted to talk about quickly is the Loki producer Kevin Wright responding to Martin Scorsese he says, "I would challenge anyone watching to say that this show is not cinematic and it's not built with the highest craftsmanship and care."
I don't doubt people are working hard on it, but I don't.
And this is him responding to Scorsese's comment about comic book movies being a danger to culture. That's a paraphrase. He didn't really say that, but but what I'm taking away from this is like, it's sort of like it's like petty. Like number one, if you have to be honest with yourself, Loki is not a serious work of art. It has like surface level, friendship, camaraderie, kind of, barely any kind of like stuff like that. But the movie is like a multiversal kind of just whimsical, nonsensical, or the show. You know what I mean? It's not really that he's trying to compare himself to Scorsese. Like, I don't know
if he's necessarily trying to do that. I think he says
culture. What do you guys think about this? Because I would argue that Loki is really not like carving into our culture in the same way that like Wolf of Wall Street is at all, and like not even close.
Is he talking to culture or movie culture, like Hollywood culture? I don't know. I almost see Scorsese saying like we're eroding the Hollywood culture.
Scorsese and a bunch of people in Hollywood. James Gray, you know, the guy who did Ad Astra, who's another very slow, pretty movie with Brad Pitt. But these people are saying essentially that comic book movies, while culturally relevant in terms of like, oh, everybody has like, you know, Ant-Man pop figures, are not the same kind of cultural. They don't have the same impact as a film like Pulp Fiction did, right? Or a film like The Godfather, or a film like even trying to think of like, you know, even like Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, like so influential. But that there's a different that makes sense, right, guys? Like there's this cultural zeitgeist thing that like taps into a society, like holds up a mirror to ourselves, especially fucking Taxi Driver, right? And American Psycho, these kinds of films, right, are different kinds of interacting with culture than Marvel movies, which are like everybody loves them and pays a lot of money to go see them, so therefore they're culturally relevant. Like it's very surface level, if that makes sense.
I think ultimately though, what you sort of touched on, though I don't know if it's exactly what you intended, was a lot of Scorsese's movies like American Psycho and ones that if they're not. It's not like
American Psycho is Mary Easton, I believe.
I didn't mean American Psycho was one of his. I mean, I mean that movies like that just people talk about them for decades afterwards, and there's references to them and memes going into the generations. You know, like everyone knows. Like now, let's see Paul Allen's Business Card, right? Like memes are powerful. But the thing is, though. The difference is, I think it has a lot to do with general quality, because the big difference is stuff like Loki is just it's not a danger to culture because it's just going to be forgotten. Like people are just going to not remember that there was 2 seasons of a Loki Disney Plus show, even when they're watching Avengers with their kids 30 years from now. Like the kids that are babies now, when they're 30 and they have kids and they probably watch the Avengers, maybe even up to Endgame, if even that, they might even just watch Avengers because that's the one that people talk.
There might be like an abridged version of the MCU at that point.
Yeah, or maybe like what's the thing they do for? Yeah, I guess abridged would be the thing they do for the animes and stuff, right? But you know what I mean. Like I think it's just that. I don't even think it's necessarily worth calling it a danger to culture, because it's like, I mean, the good ones won't be and the bad ones will be forgotten, I think.
Yeah, I understand he's allowed to have his opinion, and maybe Scorsese's taken a little too far, but I think he's onto something.
Kind of think that it depends on the context, because also that's sort of similar to what I was talking about with the budget. Because you might say, it's a danger to culture because they were spending $400 million on these pieces of shit,
wasting money.
Like
it's what the worst part
movies anymore.
The worst part of that is that $300 million could be split up and divided among 10 movies, really good indie budget indie films.
Not even indie, like $30 million is a decent chunk of movie. Yeah, like that's a decent chunk of money to make a movie with.
I'm pretty sure the budget of Asteroid City was 10 million.
10 million.
So I can't comment on this because I haven't seen any Marvel shows. But I do want to answer Noda's comment about can you have something be simultaneously whimsical yet heavy? Speaking of Asteroid City, just check out Wes Anderson's entire filmography, because that's literally what he does.
Wes Anderson, Terry Gilliam.
I wasn't even thinking that. I was more thinking stuff
David
like
Lynch.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Demon Slayer, because both of those can be either whimsical or heavy depending on the
Titan. Anime does. There's some. This is very. Everybody kind of understands this. Like
Buffy,
some things can be very, very, very entertaining, but also very, very contemplative and serious. I mean, I think The Matrix is an example. I mean, you can argue that movie's sort of shallow with its philosophy, but it's kind of not at the same time. But yeah, it's just not really that big of a deal. I wanted to get into the movie because there's some things I want to ask you guys about. Number one, people have said in the comments, somebody said they didn't like Silence. I loved it. I
didn't see it.
I read the book, and it's a phenomenal adaptation of the book. It's really good. But this movie, okay. One important thing about this movie is that they changed. We already talked about it. They changed the perspective of this movie to Ernest, the husband of this woman, Ernest, which is going to be, where's this at? Let's share this tab again. It's DiCaprio playing a sympathetic sort of sympathetic character in the beginning, but very, very, very quickly. Do you remember the first time in this movie where they just told us that he outright is aiding in these murders?
Well, they in the very first meeting where they sit down in the house, there's a very long discussion, and De Niro hints at who Lily Gladstone is, and like, oh, like she used to be with so and so, and now she and like, you know, it seemed to me like they were setting, like when I watched it, I'm like, oh, they're setting up his character to be this sort of like dummy, like he's kind of dumb and he's not a very bright man. But I think it was in the second sit down that they had, and I don't even remember why, but they were sitting down again at the table, and he like really lays it out. Like if this person dies, then the money gets passed around, and they don't really know what to do. Or I forget exactly the conversation, but I was just like, oh, okay, they just told me what's going on. Okay. Like, so again, one of my criticisms of the movie, but.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Smith's comment, I was going to bring that up, that like I think they never make it a secret that he's not a very morally sound dude. That I thought that it almost plays like he's a Red Dead Redemption gang kind of member, like where it's like he's just trying to make money however he can, and he doesn't see it as him doing anything wrong. He's like, oh well, I love my wife and I love my kid, but you know I got to do these things because money is what matters. And I guess I can kind of see why they would think, oh, there might be something here for this perspective, like have it be from the outlaw, like the doofus outlaw, essentially.
There's been a lot of conversation about this. It's what my takeaway is, and a lot of people watch this film, and the takeaway is blatantly showing you how people can essentially fall victim to, not really victim, they're evil, but like sort of, it's almost like a movie about the Holocaust from the perspective of a Nazi who doesn't really quite understand that he's being evil, but like that's kind of the reality of humanity. Like there are a lot of this is something that's very serious, and like that is a lot of people are capable of doing evil acts of violence like this against people they supposedly are like love and respect. And it's like a very important thing. There's not a lot of films that really tackle this subject matter, really. You know, and this is like kind of showing you how characters in plain sight, you know, this is not a mystery. It's not like a whodunit, which would totally deflate the purpose of kind of dealing with this kind of interpretation, or the exposing the corruption angle. It would totally defeat the purpose. I think this was a perfect perspective to show this kind of history.
I don't know, like and I think that's why the pacing was ruined for me, is because like I was told right in the beginning like what this was, and there was the trailers like did not. I mean, I know it's a trailer, but what I got from the trailer was going to be more of like
romance,
not necessarily a romance, but that I mean, yes, there was romance in the trailer, but that Leonardo was being tricked into this, that he was being sort of led, like, you know, being led by the hand of De Niro to, you know, just kind of do his bidding, but not like outwardly knowing it. Right. But like they mentioned in the chat there about the gambling scene, like. And I know it works in the way that you're talking about, and someone also says the banality of evil. Like, I mean, in this time period where people are striking oil, I mean, it was a very real time, a very like evil time in a lot of ways, and we do get that. But and I think if you're not really, I don't know if normies will really pick up on that in that way. They might be like, oh well, now I know what to expect from Leo, but how he acts out everything.
It's weird watching this movie, knowing I was thinking like, oh, I guess there's not going to be any mystery at all. Like maybe 30 minutes into the 40 minutes into the movie, I was just like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Because normally we're so used to movies that have this sort of component of like a twist or some sort of like deeper meaning or something behind the thing. But really it's a very simple movie. It's just watching people behave like the worst human beings imaginable. And I think that's an important thing. I think people need to know these things. There's a great book about the Nazis called Ordinary Men. And it's literally just accounts of like German and German like cobblers and things like that were just kind of forced into this thing, and they just kind of went along with it and just started shooting people in the woods and stuff. But it's a super duper dark, brilliant book. It's amazing. Jordan Peterson recommends it all the time. But it's an important. People need to know that everybody. One of the most annoying things these days is when people say, "Oh, I would never have done the Holocaust. I never would have. I never." Anybody who owned a slave back then, it was horrible, racist people, and then they should have known better. It's like not you. You fucking dumb person. You're stupid if you think that you wouldn't have. Or even like the Civil War, like you would have probably fought for your state. Like states' rights were super duper duper important back then. And if you think that this is not possible, if everybody has this like sort of weird diluted mentality of, well, I never would have done anything like this, we need to know that that's a delusion. It's a delusion.
Yeah, everybody has the fantasy, right, that they're going to be the Schindler. And the fact is that they wouldn't be that person. If they're really honest with themselves, they would probably just be an ordinary man.
That's why I think this movie works, because it's the opposite of Schindler's List. Schindler's List is a great film, excellent movie, but it's very manipulative and sort of melodramatic. Very melodramatic movie. It's also very Oscar baity. It does a lot of like the girl in the red dress. It has these hyper stylized sort of emotional, moments throughout the movie that like try to make you cry and, and if this movie doesn't do any of that, it's very straightforward. It doesn't manipulate you at all. It just sort of presents you the depiction of this historical event in a very sort of documentary way.
And I also
I love that about it. Now,
I also like Mr. Smith's comment right there. Like, I don't necessarily think it's about Leo, but I do think that's a core aspect of the movie. Because I was thinking the same thing, because I didn't know everything about the true story. So that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for Ernest to like finally hit his limit and be like, enough is enough. But he just keeps going.
That's
very
going.
That's going.
Well,
very
but
real.
So yeah, and here's my criticism of it is like, and I think this is why like this shit just stretched on, and I was like, when is that? Like, because even when he's caught like red-handed, and he is like, and then it's like, okay, well, now I'm gonna work with the FBI. Oh wait, no, I'm not. He's gonna run it back, and then it was like, and I thought one of the best moments.
This all happened.
What's that? Yes, I know that.
Okay.
I know that, but like this is why I feel like the format in which the story was told wasn't very good on screen. It probably would have done better from the FBI's point of view as more of a whodunit, because there, I mean, even that moment at the end where he's sitting face to face with his wife, and she asks him, "What were you giving me?" Right. And even in that moment, he fails. Like, that was a beautiful moment, but it came too late. It came after he's already flip-flopped. And I just thought like the momentum kept just being like stalled out at so many points. And it's why I was like deducting like so many, like, I guess points from this was like, it didn't seem like the right, but I appreciate the story. Yeah. Like I totally understand. Yeah. Like how you guys are seeing it and how you think it's a good method. And it does all the things that you say.
It should have been a mini series, like broken up into like episodic.
Might have actually been a better bet. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Are you going to make it like maybe like 4 hours for
That's what I'm saying,
1 hour long episodes?
Maybe I don't know. I've heard some people say that miniseries would have given it a little bit more of like a structure.
Right. And you could have bounced between the Native American side a little bit better. And that was my other thing I wanted to say.
Whole episode
the timing,
murder too.
Right. And the timing of this movie, like the passage of time was quite unclear to me. Like there was never like a couple years later. Like you saw his kids grow, but it seemed to jump ahead, and I was like, wait, who are those people now? Like it was that was another thing I thought was a weird thing they did.
Interesting.
God,
I mean,
that's
fair. It's very fair criticism because it's a totally very specific vision that Scorsese had. This is not how this movie could have been made like 10 different ways. And this is one version of this story. Now, other people are saying stuff like this. Let me find it. Where's this girl?
Oh, it's a girl? Wow.
Yeah, Devery Jacobs. So Devery Jacobs is an actress.
I'm kidding.
Devery Jacobs is some actress. She was in some show. Was it Watchmen or something like that?
I don't know.
And she has a problem with this movie being from the perspective. She is Native American, but she's not Osage. Okay, which is sort of important because But she has a perspective. If you read this whole thread about it, it's really cringe. I think. Of the movie should have been from the perspective of Lily and her family, and it would have been. She's saying a lot of people are saying that it would have been more appropriate. It would have given the Osage people more of a catharsis for, and
maybe
other people are saying, look, this movie is actually not for Osage people. It's for
exactly.
And this is complicated because it could very well turn. I've seen this comment in the chat. People are like, this is just another white man bad movie.
That's the point.
That's the point.
This is an actual one though.
This is an actual white man bad movie because this movie's for everybody to look into a mirror and say, this is society. This happened in real life. These are real people. This is, this is a potential problem that is a very problem with the human condition itself.
Yeah, it's a human. I mean, yes, it happens to be a white person at the center, or white people at the center, but all humans are capable of this. And that's really the other part.
And there's this beautiful video on Native. I'll pull it up later. There's this beautiful Native American reaction to this movie. This girl talks about. She says, I was expecting her to be super woke about it, but she was just like, look, this whole colonization sort of murderous kind of thing is a very human problem. Africans, Asians, Europeans, everybody was killing and raping and murdering people throughout all of human history. And it's just like, this is one historical event.
You know what that's called? Bigger gun diplomacy.
Right. That's what I think. This person just wanted this movie to be for Osage people, when I think Scorsese did a better thing, which is I think this movie is not supposed to be like to make the Osage people feel better about themselves. It's to make everybody aware of the depravity of humanity, that this shit really fucking happened. And it's sort of like Schindler's List, where they focus a lot of, Spielberg is Jewish. Spielberg is Jewish, but he showed a lot of violent things happening to Jewish people in Schindler's List, like getting shot in the head, getting murdered. And it's like, that is something he chose to do. And it's not like he did that, he is Jewish. And it's like, he wanted the world to see these sort of atrocities to kind of reflect on that,
Yeah. I do think that I don't think a movie needs to be graphic in the way this was at times to be like heavy and weighty. And I do think there's a couple moments where I was like, did you really need to do that? I understand why he did it, because you do want to show how brutal people were and how, and really more so, it's not even necessarily how graphic it was or how brutal the execution was or were, but like that paired with how the information just didn't get out. It was not talked about. It was not covered in this time period. And that, it does work in that way. And that was the point, was to say, they say it in the opening monologue that, 5 women were killed or 4 women were killed and no coverage. Nobody knew about it. There was nothing talked about. And even within that community, people were ignorant of the whole fact.
Right. So
Mm.
that's a good point. Now, they were saying that Scorsese should not have directed this, so it should have been a Osage person instead of a white man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, and then I
Didn't
pointed
he consult with them, though? Like,
well, he did. He consulted with a bunch of them.
No,
and
yeah, like we should find a new director who happened to be born right to replace Martin Scorsese for this movie. Like,
well, I mean,
come on, like I mean, if you're gonna say, okay, who's gonna direct Multiverse of Madness after Scott Derrickson dropped out, and you picked someone random, I'd be like, okay. And they got Sam Raimi for that, and it's still, I mean, Lofty. I don't want to bring this up.
It's always so annoying. It's always so annoying with this whole conversation because it's so like, look, some of the best movies ever made are people from different cultures, or different ethnicities taking somebody else, another culture story, and redoing it. Like most of Kurosawa's like golden period was him being like, "Huh, that Shakespeare was a pretty cool dude, wasn't he?" And then he just did a bunch of Shakespeare plays, but from a Japanese perspective, and those are fucking awesome.
And
it's like,
well, with those actors, was the Osage people in the show like actual descendants of them? Because I thought that their acting was not that great, and I was like, these must be real people that they put in there as like homage to the actual.
Some of them were, Osage people. Some of them.
I'm guessing not Lily Gladstone.
No, not Lily Gladstone. But like the council,
like, she was pretty damn good, man.
Yeah, but like the council people there, like that were the heads of the town. Like I felt those were actual Osage people that were likely descendants from
even the depressed guy, not the best performance, I'd say.
Right. Yeah. But it made it. I just thought like this must be because
not Osage. Lily.
They weren't.
No, Lily's not Osage.
Lily's.
Yeah, I felt that would have been too.
She's from a different tribe.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been cool if she was, though.
I mean, God, can you imagine the coincidence of that? It's like, oh, hey, and it turns out one of the descendants that's about the right age to play this role in the movie is an awesome actress.
Look at this quote.
That's lucky.
Look at this actress who's essentially trying to get. She kind of went on a crusade to get cancel Scorsese, basically. But look at it.
No, it's gonna work.
She says, "I don't feel that these very real people were shown honor or dignity in the horrific portrayals of their deaths."
That's the point.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, I don't even necessarily think that they were shown to be brutal, violent deaths that were
what's
horrible.
Honorable about brutality? Like, I don't understand what she wanted.
Yeah, there's definitely no honor in being like shot in the back of the head.
Wouldn't it be honoring them to show that like how it actually happened?
And
like,
I said, look at Schindler's List. Spielberg is Jewish, and if anyone would be like, she's complaining, an Osage should have directed this movie. Well, Spielberg's a Jew, and he showed a fuck ton of dishonor in Schindler's List and disgusting massacres of Jewish people in that movie. It's honorable from it's whether or not you like these kinds of films or storytelling. Do you like stories that portray violence in a way that honors the people, honors the memory of them by exposing to the world the depravity of like their demise? That's the honorable sort of part of this.
And
honestly, I always prefer. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, did she want one of the sisters to like face off with the dude on a rope bridge, like Predator? like
Inglourious Bastards, like
I'll be honest. I always like very frank, just to the point violence, even in movies that are not about historical events. Like one of my favorite action scenes in any movie is the final showdown in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where it's just three guys looking at each other. And there's just a shot and a body just hits the floor and it's over. And it's like just 7 minutes of them just looking at each other.
Reservoir Dogs
just drop, boom. And
Reservoir Dogs does a good job of that too.
Yep. Or like Dr. No, when James Bond is like, that's a Smith & Wesson and you've had your six. He just shoots an unarmed guy. He just shoots him point blank. He's an unarmed guy. And then he double taps him. A lot of people don't talk about that. He's on the floor and Sean Connery just boom and pops him in the back. And it's like so, and there's no blood, but it's so violent. It's so frank about it. He just straight up murders a guy.
Then we have this take, right, from the National Review. All that Killers of the Flower Moon has going for it is the woke idea that America's white men are spiritually sick. It's Scorsese's first political movie. And unfortunately, he has been radicalized against
I love that.
America.
I love that comment. It's his first political movie? Question mark.
In what way is this movie about all white men? It's about a few very specific ones.
Yeah, it's about
it's explicitly mostly about the specific bad guys. More so even than the protagonists, you'd say, really.
Yeah, and it's not a radicalization against America. It's a radicalization against past culture, American culture in a certain part of the country. Now,
and
look,
trying to scam people out of their money, like also by illegal means. And
you know,
deception.
He's been radicalized. You know, that this idea, this is very popular to say. People say this a lot about this movie, that he it's too political, and he doesn't do these kinds of movies. And it's like, no, yes, he does. Silence is very anti-authoritarian. If you watch that movie, it's very like it's completely it's brutal. It's a brutal criticism of the Japanese, shogunate, like their government, basically, like the way they ran their country. And then there's Kundun, and then there's like other films that, Silence, like I said, is a critique of 16th century, Japanese government. And then what's the other I can't remember. There was one other one that I was going to bring up, but it's like, why can't we make movies about sick people? Like, just because they're white, we can't make a movie now because they're white? Like,
I mean, a lot of the most famous movies of all time are about people who are really fucked up in some way.
Here's another one. Yeah. Anti-woke YouTubers, Critical Drinker, become completely incapable of calling out the thing they proclaim to hate the second it clads itself in the thinnest veil of artistic legitimacy.
No.
Here's the stupid comparison: anti-white garbage lowbrow, like whatever Marvel, and then anti-white garbage highbrow, yay! And then they link, his thing.
Okay, so even if you want, which I don't, for the record, I don't accept as a valid argument, but even if you want to make the argument that this is a woke anti-white movie, it's still the kind of thing that's like, okay, well, I mean, okay, but. Is it good?
Is it good or not?
I mean, yeah, like, did they do a good job with it? And like, does it tell the story accurate? Because ultimately, especially if it's a true story, it's like, okay, does this represent what happened? And if it was like, well, yeah, but I mean, how did they show it? It's to be like, then yeah, it's as anti-white as it needs to be. Then
if it's also, Mark, it's not. The difference too is that
it's not
unlike these Marvel movies that are coming out with, or I guess these woke movies, if we want to label them that, they'll beat you over the head with, they'll come out and say like, oh, that white man is awful, or the patriarchy this, and it's like, but this movie doesn't do that. It just tells a story through their actions.
That's why I said documentary earlier. It sort of feels like that.
The problem with the lowbrow ones, though, is that they can't write. Though if they could write, then it kind of wouldn't be a problem. It would just be like, it was written from a perspective. I mean, I'm not really a fan of socialism or communism or anything, but I like Rage Against the Machine.
It mildly annoyed me, and that's all it takes.
It blocked him.
I blocked them.
This person's called Aryan Makima, so clearly there's some literal far right Nazi anime fucking account, probably a gimmick account.
She's called,
but it's like now. It's just stupid. And then it's funny because I got the opposite from a woke person calling me a Nazi, and look, now they got suspended. Look at this. Somebody called me a Nazi for liking this movie, basically, and now they're suspended. So I can't even show you. No, I can. I can click on it. Here it is. I said, "Oh, here it is. A thread from a native actress." Oh, this is the thread that I share. I was talking about. And this guy's like, we have so much to learn. We have to listen and be silent. It's the whole thing. Like, white people have to shut up and listen to whatever natives have to say about it. Like, we can't have our own opinions. That's the gist of this, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, just because she's Native American, she's not even Osage, doesn't mean she's automatically right. So the movie is perfect the way it is. In my opinion, these are not critical observations. She's just confused. And I think so. Somebody called me a Nazi, and they said it's deleted. They were suspended. They said that they almost threatened me. They were like, your whole culture is basically going to get wiped out or something. Like, we're going to start genociding white people because your time is up, right? That's what they said. And it's like, So I'm a Nazi because I liked this movie, and I'm also woke because I like this movie. It's like, what the fuck is going on? You know, I don't know. This is just Twitter.
I will always giggle at white people using the word woke. I will never not be entertained by that.
I don't know,
especially
guys.
if you know where it comes from. It's just so funny.
I just think it's cringe. But like,
it
now,
is
now,
very cringe.
Now that we talked about sort of the perspective issue and some of the controversy, because this movie is it's going to pop up again during the award season. We're going to see people like Spike Lee probably come out and like condemn this movie for being nominated, like he always does. And anyway, that might happen. But I want to know, like, if you guys had anything else. This movie's epic. So like, what did you have any? Let me ask you about the. Oh boy, what do you want to talk about? How about let's talk about Robert De Niro. That guy gives a fantastic performance, I think. What do you guys think of Robert De Niro?
I really liked Robert. I really liked Robert a lot. I'm glad that he and Scorsese are working on a more regular, because he was in The Irishman too. So hopefully he'll be in his next movie. Because
he was great in The Irishman. No, now by the way, Shags has to head out. I forgot to mention that. So, we'll talk a little bit more about the movie now. But I'm glad we could get Shags's take on sort of his I kind of understand it, like the way you wish the movie would have been made. You know, I kind of get what you were saying a little bit.
Yeah, and we get what we get, and we coulda, shoulda, woulda, always. We can always say, "Oh, this could have been done better" or whatever. To answer your question before I go, and then I'll just add a little bit more onto like what I thought of this movie before I dip out. But I see, I was on the other end of this. Like, I loved De Niro, and I think he had some good moments. I thought he was miscast a little bit. I thought they could have gotten someone better. I almost thought like Anthony Hopkins could have killed this role. Just because he just seemed too like the way he interacted with the normal people. I just thought, I don't really believe him. And I can't believe anyone else believes this fucking guy.
But isn't that interesting? Because
right.
I mean, we know he's evil. So that has to sort of influence you a little bit.
No, and I have to say, like, and one of the things I wrote down in my notes was like this silent malice that he portrays in this is quite sinister, I will say. But again, I just thought there could have been someone a little better. But he gives a great performance. Like, I'm with Mark on this too, where it's like, you can't really say a whole lot of bad stuff about this. Like, maybe I'm just a little nitpicky on things that are just like in the length that really got to me. Because one of the things that I thought really was so good about this movie was how isolating the shots made this movie. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed how quiet this movie was.
Very quiet.
Very, very quiet. Like, just like this world probably was. But it made you feel alone. And I think that was playing to maybe the Osage people here, is that as wealthy as they were, their culture was just like completely stripped from them. And the only alternative they really had at this point was, hey, you struck gold, literally. But now you have to adopt this culture that you probably absolutely hate, that ran your people off. And meanwhile, we're just going to slowly knock you off, and no one's going to care. So I thought that the sound design in this was just masterful. I really, really liked it. And even the soundtrack, it wasn't Zimmer's, it was Hans Zimmer that did this, right?
I don't think so. It was was it? Oh, no, hold on.
I don't know. It was someone that I recognized, but I thought it wasn't his best work. But I still really liked it. I'm big into music and sound. In this movie, I was very impressed by it.
Robbie Robertson.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it was Hans Zimmer. I'll take the L there. But no, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up, and you guys had mentioned it, and I was quite surprised that. But I'm glad you noticed like how it just, everything about this movie, like anytime there was like people talking outside or even in the group, I mean, you heard a lot of like the creaking and like walking
There's
across
not
these.
a lot of background noise, distractions. Like Wolf of Wall Street is the polar opposite of this movie.
Yeah. Yep.
But no, this is very isolated. Like when DiCaprio and or whenever that guy was getting taken, was the uncle, oh, what's that guy's name, who got shot in the back of the head, that poor Native American guy, you know, when he was getting taken out to basically get assassinated, it was so like, I was sweating because I was just like, this is disgusting. Like, what, why, how could you do this after befriending this guy? Like it doesn't, you know. And
well, because he was an Indian. Because remember, he said, "I'm not killing anybody." He said, "Like, well, it's an Indian." He's like, "Well, that's different." And he immediately changes his tune when he knows he's going to kill a Native American. He's like, "Oh, well, that's different," you know.
But yeah, and it's isolating with Lily's character too at the end when she's just sort of stuck in her bed because she's sick and stuff.
Yeah.
So well, thanks for
that was. I mean, it's kind of the things I just wanted to add, and no, it's just, I wish I could stay longer. I got to get back to doing dad stuff and all that. But always like talking with you guys. Jackson, it's good to meet you. We've never talked, but I look forward to chatting again about some movies, hopefully. And Mark, always a pleasure as well. So
yeah, take it easy, Shags.
Thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, see you, chat.
Everybody goes up to Shags. So yeah, I think I agree with that. Kind of that's why I keep coming back to this sort of documentarian vibe that I'm getting from this movie. More of rather than like Schindler's List had very documentary style cinematography, very ghetto. You know, like the ghettos were filmed in a way that was just like chaotic and crazy, but it also had incredibly emotionally melodramatic, dialogue and close-ups of and like the whole scene of him shooting people with a sniper rifle. Amon Goth, Ralph Fiennes or whatever. How do you pronounce his name?
Rafe Fiennes.
Rafe Fiennes.
Yeah, Rafe
Fiennes.
You don't see a lot of that kind of just emotionally intense stuff in this movie. It's sort of matter of fact, simple violence.
There is an emotional detachment to the violence, which I thought was appropriate. Speaking of emotional, another part that I think people misinterpreted was the romance element. Because I think people are getting caught up on like, was he real or was it fake? Did he really love her? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, man, you're really missing the forest for the trees there, because I thought it was fairly apparent that throughout the movie they very much other the Native Americans, right? So I took it to be that Ernest loved her like you would a dog or something.
Well,
like,
I mean, I
legitimately loved her, but he legitimately loved her, but he loved her like
he liked the idea of being married.
He liked the idea of being married, and he kind of loved her like you would.
I love this puppy, man. He's a good puppy.
Dogs are
true,
great.
True, but you don't love a human the same way.
No,
you know what I mean?
I mean, he can't.
You might not.
Really, he can't. He has a mental disorder, I think. The way he portrayed this character was like, you could tell sometimes he was grappling with the fact that he was essentially killing people, and he was like struggling with it. And it's like, how can you do it?
I think what they did there is they did a pretty effective job of showing that he was clearly operating maliciously, but not from a position of, I guess maliciously might be the incorrect word. He was operating maliciously, but almost from a position of ignorance to the fact that he was really doing anything that wrong. Yeah. He's like, well, I mean, my wife, I got to get these head rights, which means we can't have her poking around too much, which means you got to keep her from not talking. So this needs to happen. And she's a sickly person who has diabetes anyway. So her being sick in bed is totally normal. And that's not really a big problem. So yeah, I guess I'll do this for as long as I need to. Like he would talk himself out of taking responsibility, I think, even up to the very end. Like, and that was probably the moment where, had he said, I was poisoning you because my uncle made me and I did it and I'm sorry, But yeah, I was.
And he couldn't.
And that might have been a bit different, but he couldn't. He's like, no, it was just giving you the insulin. It's like, hey man, they probably they probably have evidence on you already about that. She probably knows for sure what you were giving her.
They probably told her.
Yeah, exactly. So
I also like.
And he said,
but he's an idiot.
So like, he said, my conscience is clear. I've told my truth. Basically, he kind of went all, victimized himself a little bit. He's like, oh, I've told my truth and my conscience is clear. And she's like, is it really clear? Is it really clear? Like, do you have something else to say?
That thing that I'm never gonna.
Yeah. But that's fantastic. But the worst scene with him for me, and then I got to go quickly go to the bathroom. And I'll be right back. But I just want to say quickly, the worst scene for me was when Jesse Plemons shows up at his house, and he is the guy's like, oh, can I talk to your wife about some murders or whatever in the sound? And he did DiCaprio was so good there.
Yeah.
He was thinking, he was like, come back Friday, basically. Come back Friday. And he's probably thinking in his head, oh, she might be dead Friday, so then I can be off the hook.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that? Or is that what he was probably
maybe, yeah.
That's probably what he was thinking, yeah.
I think though.
Isn't that morbid?
Yes, it is, but I also think that there's a good chance he's also just sort of a simple enough guy to be like, oh yeah, that worked. It's a problem for later.
Also, yeah,
they're gone for now. Like he's sort of dumb. He's dumb in a lot of ways, but in a way that I find reasonable. Like it's not like, oh well, that character is just stupid. It's like, well, it's a bad character kind of deal. It's more like, no, the character is a stupid character, and that's kind of what's interesting watching him handle this heavy stuff because he's not doing a very good job of it at all.
And that's echoed in the very beginning when he's talking to Hale, the guy, and Hale is sort of calling him sort of stupid anyway. Like he's like, oh, you're kind of a simpleton, aren't you? you're gonna get married. You're gonna listen to do exactly what I tell you to do, and you're never gonna betray me. And you're just gonna be my sort of simpleton little guy that goes out and coordinates these little crimes, and you don't have any agency. And you're right. Like that's his character, but that doesn't mean that simple dumb people shouldn't be in prison for the life. But clearly he was still capable of knowing right from wrong. I think obviously, but it's very nuanced character. Like it's not black and white. The guy's got a lot going on.
Yeah, because there's also because there's also the part of you that thinks that maybe he's so.
I'll be right back. You guys keep chatting for a second.
That's fine. Because there's also the part of me when I was watching the movie, I was like, there's a part of me that thinks that maybe he was so dense and short-sighted that he thought oh, I'll just kill my wife's family and we'll get all the head rights and we'll be super rich and that'll be great. And he didn't think about the long-term logistics or he didn't think about the long-term consequences of that. He was like, yeah, it'll be great.
I think again, it's sort of the Wild West outlaw mentality not working as the Industrial Revolution happens and the world becomes more modern, because you find there's things like, what are you, the Pinkertons or something? No, we're the Federal Bureau of Investigation. What do you do? Well, I mean, we're a federal institution and we look into crimes and solve them. And he's like, well, I don't even know what these suits are talking about. So yeah, I'll just tell them to come back on Friday. Whatever. I'll just keep blowing them off and it'll be fine. But I think that kind of outlaw can't succeed in a world where accountability is a lot more difficult to avoid, especially if you're aiding or even committing multiple crimes of the same type. You will leave a trail of evidence, and they will. It's not like, oh well, that lady just got shot in the head one day, shot in the back of the head. It's a dangerous world, could have been anyone. I guess you'll never find out. So c'est la vie. That. I guess that excuse. There was a time when that might have worked, because it's well, what are they going to do? Dust for prints? Because that technology is newer than you think. It's not like they were doing that in the 1400s, But yeah, it's neat. It's a neat setting for a a movie, any period in time, like mid World War One, sort of, when the Old West was dying is probably not the right word, but the Old West was changing into the modern world. It's not like the Old West died. It's like, no, it just evolved into what we have now.
Yeah, it was actively evolving. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was the big time between kind of the Industrial Revolution. The invention of the Ford Model T was a few years later too, and so then cars started becoming a thing that a lot of people could get, and roads were built. Horses became less common. Like
society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, and the other thing for me is that, like, how should I put this? It's funny how quickly the FBI like figured out exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
It's like they weren't nearly as clever as they thought they were. Like the FBI is like brand new. J. Edgar Hoover sets it up on orders of the president. They go out and investigate, and they've got them pegged in like a week with like barely anything going. They're just like, these guys are fucking guilty.
I think it was like the first conversation he had with them. Like when Plemons comes up to him and he says that, well, my wife, she's very sick, so she's not up for talking. It's like, oh, well, can I come back tomorrow? It's like, well, she's not going to be up for talking tomorrow. Maybe Friday. And then Judge Blunt was just like, all right, we'll see you Friday then. Like you can tell he was kind of just like, oh, you're definitely guilty of something.
Yeah, it's like immediately just like, you are so suspicious right now. All right, see you around. Yeah, so they pegged him so quick, but they also pegged Hall real quick.
Like, well, they went to the my favorite scene in the movie. It's kind of funny actually. Is they went to the what's it called, the mortuary or whatever, and they were like, so where's the bullet? And they were like, well, I don't know, I couldn't find it. And they were like, well, it should be in the head, right? And they were like, well, yeah, we cut the head up. Like that whole scene was like so obvious that they were just clearly like dismembering the body to look for the bullet, and they were trying to cover it up, and you can't cover that up.
Yeah,
like if it's something that's like so obvious, like you shouldn't be. And they were like, oh, we couldn't find it. And they showed them cutting the body up in front of everybody, looking for the bullet, like on camera. I didn't know why they were doing that, actually. Did you guys pick up on that?
Yeah.
And they were cutting that lady's head open.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about finding a bullet. Like I was just sort of morbid, grossed out by it,
Yeah, they were actively tampering with evidence. I mean, like right there in real time,
So, but that's funny. Mark said something about the time period. I wanted to quickly explain something for people that might not know. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Great. Going to play some Baldur's Gate. Guy, have fun with that.
Yeah. Good game.
Fun. I wanted to say this. The Osage people, I did a little bit of research. Number one, they got lucky and they purchased land from the government as opposed to just like inherited land. And like there was all these different kinds of like land ownership problems. But they purchased this land that happened to have oil on it. And that's why they were so wealthy. I think at one point in the movie, it's explained how much money these people have. It's like somewhere like, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? You remember what I'm talking about? I think it was Lily or something. She went to the bank and they were like, oh, your net worth is like hundreds of thousands, like 900,000 or so. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like in 1914.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so this dynamic is interesting. It's like these people had white like chauffeurs. They had white people driving them around. They were very respected in society. They weren't like that. They sort of were gullible because of their status, their wealth. They were sort of being taken advantage of. There's a thing that goes completely unnoticed, but in the beginning, they're sort of haggling. People are trying to like beg them to pay them for like merchandise. Is sort of like this thing, and they're like, "Oh, I need money for my daughter or whatever," and they're like, "Oh, okay, I'll take a blanket or whatever." And it's these white guys, and what really happened is they would like charge the Osage people way more money. They would overcharge them for things because they had so much money. And it was like this sort of like mild corruption that was happening, and like they were just taking advantage of these people.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
And it's interesting, the Native women, one of the things, the criticisms of the movie that I think is valid is it never really explained why all these Native women are marrying white men. And I don't know if you guys have a take on that, or like if you sort of agree that it was kind of ambiguous. It could have been explained better, but I did research about it, and the reality is there's this generational gap where older Osage people that grew up, you know, with these traditional values of, you know, weird sort of, they showed a weird funeral sort of thing.
Yeah,
sort of very
I think you might be saying exactly what I was gonna guess.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Well, so I think what happened is it's the generation that started growing up in American society more so than Osage Nation society. So I think that it's not so much that they're all marrying white guys because of some weird like mind hypnosis thing. It's just, oh no, these are the guys that are more comfortable in this society. Like they move through this society with more confidence and ease, so they're just inherently more attractive to a lot of young women who grow up in that society. Whereas the poor Osage guys, like they need to be competing with because I mean, let's face it, there's probably not a whole lot of white women who are going to be going for Osage men. I mean, maybe there was, I don't know, but I feel like that would be less common because they. I imagine that would be more scandalous at that point in history.
Because the men, another thing is the men were, a lot of them were well, one of the characters, they sort of explain this with one character, but it was very common. The melancholy was like what they call it. A lot of the Osage men were very depressed, drunkards. You know, a lot of Osage men would drink alcohol and just do nothing all day. And they didn't have to. They were rich and wealthy, but you know, or they had access to money, sort of. And there's this whole thing where they needed like a guardian to control their bank accounts and stuff. But that, you know, but you're right. It's these women. And this Native American woman was talking about it on a YouTube channel. It was fascinating, but she said basically what you said, which is like American younger generation women who went off to, especially ones who were educated at American universities or you know, and came back to live with their families, were sort of offended by their ancestry in a way that is like, okay, mom and dad, grandpa, you're sort of like ancient sort of tribalist culture is like not really hip and kind of, it's just not something that I want to like continue doing. I want to be more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's not what I want to be in the future. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you do your thing, and I'm gonna join in. And every time there's I'm still gonna wear the clothing and everything. But I also want to be an American. I think is sort of the general thing that would get a Native girl to be into an American guy.
Exactly. And that's important because it deals directly into this transfer of wealth, because now Hale, who owns, you know, he's like he's even like a part sheriff too. I think he's like a backup sheriff or something, but he's like, he owns property, like all the different, he's just this wealthiest person in this area, white man. And he's their friend. And they trust him because he knows their fucking language. And, you know, and I believe actually he at one point really fucking cared about them. Like he's complicated too a little bit. Because, you know, I don't think he planned I don't think this thing was planned out specifically. I think it was sort of an opportunist thing where when it was discovered that if you die, your estate and your wealth from the oil is going to get transferred to your nearest relative. But if your relative is a white man, and it sort of delineates into this collective pot of, you know, of Hale and other people like making a lot of money off of these murders. It's very confusing how that whole like sort of delineation works, and they explained it pretty well, I thought, in the movie. It was sort of I was never confused in the movie. I was never confused. I understood what they were trying to tell me.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I got it. Yeah.
That was, I thought, you know, What else? There's she's so fucking good in this. Like,
I think she's a shoe-in for Best Actress. I think she's shoe-in.
This scene is fantastic.
I don't think I've seen enough movies in this year to really say. Although I really want Mia Goth to win for Pearl. I don't think she will though.
That'd be great, but
that was
last year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
yeah. There you go. I haven't seen shit this year.
Yeah, that's
hey,
what,
Rocky.
That's where last year she actually came out and said that Hollywood, she's kind of based. She said that Hollywood is sort of snobby and they don't really give a shit about like horror movies.
Well, the old white guys that vote in the Academy are like, what, 90 years old? They watch a horror movie, they give them a heart attack and die.
Mm-hmm.
They probably haven't seen a heart attack. They probably haven't seen a horror movie in like 30 fucking years.
I mean, they would have had to watch Silence of the Lambs. So.
Silence of the Lambs.
That's true. I probably barely got through that.
But she was so good, man. Like, especially when she was sick and she didn't have much dialogue. She's so fucking good. This scene was insane.
Oh yeah, the Masons doing.
He had to wear.
Shit.
Yeah, chat. If you haven't seen this movie, DiCaprio gets spanked by Robert De Niro's character, and it's very much this sort of. It's sort of like this depicting. This is where some of the people were like, "Oh, this is a anti, because they're sort of. You could put any wealthy
secret society
in here, like. I could see this sort of being an anti-Trump thing, which is like a lot of left-wing people or people, political people think Trump is sort of a like a baby, and like he's got to be treated like, and like his family. Nothing is. So they had this spanking scene, and it's like you're going to get spanked because you were a bad boy, and it's like it's sort of like making fun of these people.
He's not talking to you, Rocky. You're a good boy.
I'm pretty sure there's like really Freemason like hazing and stuff too.
A little bit, but I took it more as like these people are just sort of, they act like children almost, like I'm gonna spank you, like what the fuck. And it's like, this is he had to wear a fake butt for this because it hurt. It was gonna break his fucking tailbone. But he got and then we got what else we got here? So Clemens was fantastic.
Yeah,
this is the scene I was talking about. This is the scene here I was talking about, where it's like, look at him, he's panicking, and he doesn't want them to find out that he's been poisoning his wife.
Yeah,
and he says, "Come back Friday," but then he doesn't do anything. He just goes to work. He just like goes off and drinks in a bar, like he's stupid. He is. You're right. He's dumb. He's a dumb character. Like he's dumb. He's low, efficient, mentally deficient.
Come back on Friday. Problem solved.
He'd be a massive Marvel fan in this day and age. He'd be like, "Damn, I like that Eternals movie."
Like, and then I don't know. This stuff was interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was like, "Why aren't the Native Americans taking up arms and killing people?" And it's like, well, you have to understand, they didn't know who was doing any of this stuff, and they did not suspect Hale. He was the last person they suspected.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that though structurally, I think, is a problem with the perspective character being like, I mean, not a problem necessarily, but it's you can't avoid that side effect. Because it makes us always be thinking, how are these people so dumb as to not realize it's these guys doing it? It's like, well, you got to understand, they're not seeing most of this also.
Right.
Like,
they're not seeing,
they're not seeing what the audience is seeing.
They're seeing this.
Yeah.
This is what
exactly. It's like, oh yeah, man. Like we go out drink it sometimes. He's a nice guy.
Yeah,
that's my friend.
And look at him. They are friends.
Yeah,
actually. And the guy was like, I don't want to do this. And then he was ordered, I'm spoiling some things, but he was ordered to kill this guy.
Make it look like a suicide.
But he was supposed to make it look like a suicide, and he couldn't face. It was kind of tragic. He couldn't face him and shoot him and kill his friend, so he did it in the back of the head. That was his way of coping with. Oh, it's my friend. I can't kill my friend. So instead, he just does it in the back of the head. Like it's really fucked up.
Doesn't count if he doesn't see me do it.
Right. And then the best scene was when DiCaprio was Hale and
that was so good. They're freaking
like, I told you to shoot him in the front of the head.
He's like, the back is the back.
Yeah, I told him to shoot in the back. I told him to shoot in the front. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I swear to God, King. I swear to God. He's like, the front is the front, the back is the back.
Yeah,
they're just like yelling.
That's
like, the fucking stupid you gotta be.
That is such typical Scorsese sort of dialogue, though. It's very good. And then we get this whole, eventually they get to the FBI. Eventually they get caught. Eventually they're in prison and they're negotiating with the FBI. And it's like, I don't know if it was you or Shags or somebody who said that it was sort of a weird transition. Is that what you said, Mark? Or
well, no, it was Shags, I think, was talking about it, but I wasn't crazy about this whole part of the movie as well, because I almost think that when he does kind of, I guess, are we doing spoilers now? You kind of
yeah.
Okay, so when Brendan Fraser and Hale convince him to not be the FBI's informant,
here it is.
I thought that whole segment before him being like, okay, now I actually am going to do it. Like a whole bunch of it was just like, well, I mean, we're retreading a lot of ground for stuff. Like the story is basically over now, so I think they could have wrapped it up in about half the time, and it would have been as effective. I don't think that we got tons of super valuable stuff in that bit, especially because I mean, we know the evidence, we saw it all happen.
True. Oh, it does go to show though how really moldable Ernest is. Like he's like, I'm gonna testify. I'm not gonna testify. I am gonna testify. And it's just like whoever he talks to, he just wants to agree with. He's so smooth.
But this was kind of. I understand what you're saying, Mark. The problem is I need to watch it again. It's kind of a monumental movie. It's hard to.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again and kind of pay attention to the pacing a little bit, but. I would say that this stuff is very important because it sort of shows Ernest's grappling with his humanity a little bit, and then trying. But what I'm trying to say is it sets up this moment with Lily and his coming clean to everybody and telling the truth, and finally it's sort of setting up like a typical movie ending. But it subverts it a little bit because he doesn't give them that last bit of information about the poisoning. He can't do it. And it's sort of important that we have this part because otherwise that scene wouldn't even matter. It would hit different. It would feel less impactful because, he went through this whole court process and then it also exposed all these other evil people like the lawyer and all these other evil wolves and, sheep's clothing or whatever. When they were trying to convince him to not testify. I don't know. I think it was all important information. I just think I kind of see what you're saying with some of it. Maybe it could be 3 hours. I don't know. I don't know what. I can't for certain say this scene should have been cut out, that one.
I mean, again, like I don't have an edit in mind or anything like that. It's just like the movie was losing me a bit at that point. Okay. And I think that ultimately I didn't find that the segment of the movie through the whole court process and everything and it feeling like it's taking as many months because that's the thing. We still don't really have a great sense of any time frames in this thing, but they made it seem like this was a court process that was going on for months, if not a year or more. And it might have been, like, I'm not saying it wasn't, but I don't necessarily think it needed to feel like it was taking tons of time because ultimately the information that we get. Oh, KJ, you really got to mute when you cough, man. Every time that spikes in my own. But I felt like I could have probably gotten as much as I got out of the movie if that was trimmed down, even if each of the scenes were shorter and there were still the same scenes. I guess I didn't think that what was happening at that point in the movie was stunningly beautiful art that I needed to see every moment of. It was essentially just the procedural part of the movie where we wrap things up and the villains are put to justice, right? Like that's ultimately what was happening. And again, I know there's not really an accurate way for me to convey this criticism, because it could just sound like, well, yeah, but every movie could just be its Wikipedia synopsis, and that's the most efficient way to get you the information. Like, I know that it's not cut and dry like that, but I guess ultimately that was like, well, if it's a 3.5 hour movie and the last 45 minutes to an hour or kind of not as engaging as the rest of the movie, how can that be remedied? And I think that the answer is never. There's nothing that could possibly be done. This is exactly how it needed to be done. Even if you are Martin Scorsese, because I mean, yeah, he would do it better than I'd say most other people. But that doesn't necessarily mean that even a director who has a what do you mean a vast catalog behind him of really great movies, they can get self-indulgent because they have egos and everything, as everyone does. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have one, and just think, oh man, this whole sequence is just so brilliant. I love it. It's amazing. And maybe they're not looking at it with the clearest set of eyes that they could. And maybe it could have been a better movie if that was tightened up. But at the same time, and I wouldn't say that that's like an objective critique. That's kind of just like my personal.
It's a taste thing. Look, people had a problem with Oppenheimer's ending. A lot of people.
Yeah, and I had a similar complaint for Oppenheimer's ending, because I thought that they did a lot of retreading of things we already knew from different angles, and I'm like, guys, we know all this. Why is this taking as long as it is for us to just get to? Like, I want to hear what he said to Einstein.
Oh yeah, well they showed
what Einstein said to him, I guess.
I thought they showed that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I had to get through the whole hour of them having the thing that's not a trial, where it's kind of the same people saying basically the same assessment of his character from a bunch of different angles. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's kind of interesting to see which ones of these people are going to betray him or not. But also, it's kind of like a bunch of people saying the same stuff about him. Like, there's sort of only one or two guys who are against them.
Yes. That's a good takeaway. What did you guys think of the very ending, where they broke into a radio? What would you call that? Like a radio show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sort of explaining the typical. Typically, you would see text pop up on a screen. Oh, this person spent 10 years in jail. This blah 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 blah. But they did it in an interesting way that was sort of like
historically accurate. It was historically accurate, because that's how the FBI would actually raise money, essentially doing true crime docs like that we have now, like podcasts and stuff.
That's what it was. It was.
They would do that as radio shows to like help raise money for the FBI.
Yeah, radio dramas with the sound effects and everything, like practical Foley effects on set. It's cool stuff. I actually really like that scene, and I thought it was. Yeah. I thought as far as like self-inserts from directors and movies go, that's pretty good one. Because I mean, hey, he's been the one telling you this story the entire time, right? And so fair enough.
Yeah. And it was kind of, it was kind of poignant and powerful a little bit to have Martin Scorsese show up and what was he reading?
He was basically reading the case synopsis, like the summary, being like, so here's what happened. And the epilogue stuff. So here's what happened to each person.
Yeah. There's a lot of commentary about that ending. A lot of people have different takes on it. But
I liked it.
They talk about the Tulsa massacre. They talk about
that was a chilling fucking scene, because like you're watching Hall, and he's like watching the Tulsa massacre, and he's not horrified by it. He's inspired by it. He's like, this is amazing.
Oh yeah, Hale was watching that.
Yeah, he's watching it, right? He's watching it, and he's not like horrified or anything. He's like really engaged and interested in it. He's like, this is really cool. Like, this is great. Like, you can see it on his face. He's like inspired by it. That was one of the most creepy and uncomfortable scenes in the movie. I was like, because you could just see it. Robert De Niro, man, that was such a great part of his performance. You could just see it on his face. He was just like, without actually having that face, but like,
I mean,
like,
he is still De Niro.
You know, you could just see on it, like
he's
mentally,
great.
He was like,
yeah. Even if I can see the argument for him being miscast, he's kind of a pro, you know, like he does what he does well.
Yeah.
Someone said this. I just want to read this quote. It's interesting. Scorsese's decision to step into the role of the performer who reads Molly's fate breaks the fourth wall. I'll just go to this. Here it is. Breaks the fourth wall in order to acknowledge how deeply fucked up this all is.
Not
how
necessarily
far
breaking the fourth wall.
Well, I mean, he is the director in his own movie.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I think because of how it's done, like because of the choice he made of how to insert himself there, not just write a character in that looks like him, but just be like, no, I'm going to play a person doing one of the FBI radio dramas about this true crime story. Like, you know, like it's like, oh, I mean, it's kind of fine. Like, I'm just like, okay, well, it was a good way to do that epilogue instead of, you know, the Animal House style where you freeze frame on the person and then have a little text to be like, Ernest went to jail for 35 years or whatever it was.
Oh God, that's another thing. De Niro was slightly too old in this movie for playing that character. He should, because he did go to jail for a long time and then he was still alive when he got out. But it's like in this movie, he's like fucking 90.
Yeah, that did make that a little trickier to.
It was a little strange. But that didn't. Sometimes that suspension of disbelief is not a problem. This scene was dramatic and intense and sad. When she was crying about her sister, I believe got exploded in a bomb.
Yep, that was a great sequence,
bro. And they not only killed her sister and her husband, they killed this, like, accidentally killed the white maid. You know. And then DiCaprio, look at it. I'm telling you, he's such a good actor. I don't know what your problem is, Jackson, but look, DiCaprio is a god.
I'm not saying he's bad. He's good.
No, have you seen The Revenant?
Yeah, that's.
Come on.
I think he was good. I honestly think he was better in Wolf of Wall Street than he was in The Revenant.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the one he deserved it for real. I was like, oh yeah.
I mean, I think he deserved it for The Aviator, but you know, I think he deserved it for
The Aviator. Actually,
so that is Scorsese's second best movie, probably. It's fucking amazing. Watch it.
I'm aware of the story of Howard Hughes, so like I know what happens, but like. I guess I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I don't necessarily need to watch 3 hours on Howard Hughes, but
no, you do. I mean, it's so dramatic.
Maybe I'll like it. It's just I don't know when I'm going to get around to it at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those that you'll watch eventually. It's like, well, I have never seen there's one Scorsese movie that I've never watched. What is that called? I've seen Shutter Island a couple times. Shutter Island's hard to rewatch, I think. Once you know everything, it's like, where's the suspense? Like, what's the point of watching this movie?
In the eyes of the puppy is where you will find the suspense.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes like movies that are like puzzles, you have to like solve a puzzle. A lot of Christopher Nolan movies are like this.
I find Memento quite rewatchable, actually.
Well, that's because
The Prestige is great.
Yeah, The Prestige is also. It depends. It depends on the actor. It depends on the subject matter. But sometimes I think rewatching a movie that, like, The Sixth Sense is hard for me to like really enjoy on a rewatch because it's just like, what am I doing? I'm just like appreciating Bruce Willis's acting basically, and like
Unbreakable doesn't have that problem.
No,
Unbreakable is great.
I rewatch Unbreakable once a year. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's awesome. Unbreakable.
It's a great one to throw on if you're bored. Just throw on Unbreakable. It's great.
It's like one of the best superhero movies sometimes.
It is one of the best superhero movies. It really is. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I had some other tweets that I was going to bring. Oh, those are all gone. Overall, okay. I don't think I heard your rating. Oh no, you said something like a 6 or 7.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm kind of more accurately a 6. I don't because I don't think I'm rushing to see this movie again. I think I would almost watch any other Scorsese movie that I've seen again before this one. And
that's true because it's hard. I agree.
But there's a bunch I haven't seen. Like I didn't see Mean Streets because that was the earliest De Niro one, right?
It's amazing. Yeah.
But I mean, I'd watch Raging Bull again, like today. Taxi Driver is actually a tough one on rewatch. It's a really kind of dark movie. I think I'd actually rewatch Joker before Taxi Driver, but Taxi Driver is good though. Like it's not. I wouldn't say it's bad or anything like that.
No.
I mean, I'd rewatch Goodfellas pretty much any day, or Casino for that matter. Like if X-Ray Girl was just like, "Hey, I've never seen this movie Goodfellas. I hear it's good." I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm putting it on right now." How about you don't have to finish the sentence. I'm working on it.
What about The Departed?
Oh, I love The Departed. I think The Departed's incredible. That's the thing. Like most of his movies, throw it on right now, and I'm good. But
I am like
if someone said I'm going to see Killers of the Flower Moon, do you want to come with me? I would really not have anything to do to say yes to that.
No, that's
because
fair.
I'd be like, no, I'm okay.
That's fair. I felt the same way about The Irishman. I am rewatching The Irishman right now. It's a long.
Not seeing The Irishman. So yeah, and that was another one. Although I guess fair enough that one did come out on Netflix, so I can't use I would have watched it if it was on streaming.
No, that's the problem. It's like on Netflix, if a movie's long, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't, because it's effectively a limited series at that point. I could argue that every single one of the Mike Flanagan shows, maybe except for Midnight Club, is just a long movie.
Yeah, no, The Irishman is. Look, oh man, Jimmy Hoffa's in The Irishman. They John F. Kennedy. There's so much going on in that movie. You should watch it. It's really good.
Irishman's good.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Again, it's just I gotta find it.
I am the biggest Departed hater. I actually I don't like that movie straight up.
Oh, The Departed's awesome.
Is that because it's because of some people hate the fact that he's basically ripped off of the Chinese movie?
It's literally a borderline shot-for-shot remake of Infernal Affairs, and it's inferior in every way.
I don't know if it's inferior.
Oh, so you're one of the people that doesn't like it because of that.
Well, look, I think
that's what I got from his statement.
It's just like, why would I watch The Departed when it's just an inferior copy of Infernal Affairs? It's kind of like
I disagree because I think
instead of episode 4.
I mean, like some of the performances in The Departed are really good, though.
It's not inferior.
Because it is different. It's
Jack
not
Nicholson
the
is
same.
not like Nicholson and DiCaprio are not inferior to the actors in the original movie. It's what you're saying is like maybe you prefer that version of the story better, but I don't think it's inferior.
Alec Baldwin, Alec Baldwin's got the greatest line in that movie. He's like, "That's bullshit, Macaulay." But it is
Mark Wahlberg is funny
bullshit. Because the guy was like, "Sir, I think you're one of the best cops on this force." He's like, "That's bullshit." But it's very good bullshit.
I'm not a big fan of a lot of those performances. It doesn't vibe. Like there are movies that I like Matt Damon in more. There are movies that I like Mark Wahlberg in more. It's just not. It doesn't quite click.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's in my top 10. I don't know. My top 5 it's old shit. My top 3 are I've talked about this a lot, but it's Taxi Driver, The King of Comedy, and The Aviator is my favorite Scorsese. Silence is creeping.
Oh, favorite Scorsese movie. I thought you meant your favorites of all time. I was like, those are all Scorsese movies.
Yeah, no. Yeah. No. Taxi Driver is a masterpiece. It's the first sort of it's one of the it's the original like literally me movie. Like when you watch this movie, it's
the disenfranchised dude movie.
The disenfranchised dude movie. And there's a lot of psychological. It's like a psychological sort of fucked up horror movie almost. But
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but but there's some the photography, the New York City, like the driving scenes, the cafe scenes, fantastic. Anyway,
KJ, mute is Control D. You just have to hit Control D before you cough, man.
I highly recommend. I highly recommend The Aviator.
Oh no, we hear you cough every time you do. If you've just been flipping the microphone up, that does nothing.
Oh yeah.
You can still hear me.
I can hear you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's beeping. Wait, It beeps to tell me it's off. That's weird.
Oh no,
It
it's
might be
been
for
lying to you.
gaming. That might be for gaming or something. I don't
Maybe
know
it's
what
just for gaming or something. Yeah, because it goes boop boop when I flip it up, and it's
That's
supposed to turn off.
Well, maybe
weird.
StreamYard uses
Maybe
it differently.
StreamYard,
possibly.
yeah, maybe StreamYard doesn't register it. Yeah, that's weird. Because you were like, oh, I can hear you when I'm coughing. I'm like, what? I flipped it up. What are you talking about?
I think this is fine for people to watch at home. I want to encourage people though to go see Napoleon in theaters. Like I think I still try to do. I'm trying to stick. Maybe this is just like me recently being a little bit more sensitive. I think I'm trying to like encourage. I'm trying to cultivate a community of people that appreciate good films and will pay for them. And it's like it's kind of just an important thing. I don't think we should. If everybody in the world was just like, "Oh, I'll watch it on streaming," then who's going to fund
you? Because you can also what I think that I don't think any movie should be exclusive to streaming. I think you should be able to buy every movie a la carte in some way, and those purchases should be protected by.
Yeah, how are they going to make money though? How are they going to make money off these films?
I mean, I buy movies. Like I buy movies on iTunes all the time. If it's a movie that I wanted to see and it isn't just on a streaming service I already pay for. But I mean, I think the problem is the only solution to there's a million different streaming services, and if you want to watch all the movies, you have to subscribe to 40 different things. The only solution to that is if, in addition to having exclusive movies on your streaming service, you offer people to outright buy that movie, because then you're not buying every single movie that comes out. You've got your streaming services for the ones that you tend to like the most. So for me, honestly, I'd probably take Netflix out of them, because lately they've been doing most of the stuff that I've been into, not least of all being like Korean shows that they bring over that are awesome. But like, I mean, also, I thought Follow the House of Usher was incredible. I really liked Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Like they do a lot of stuff I like. Arcane was great. Castlevania Nocturne's not very good, but
is amazing.
I mean, there you go. Like that's what I mean. Like they've got enough things that I'd be like, if I was going to subscribe to one, it would probably be that. Second might be Amazon, but Amazon and HBO kind of neck and neck. But because Amazon has a lot of stuff I don't really care about at all. But every so often they'll put out something that I think is awesome. So it's Amazon's a tricky one with me. But what I mean is, though, I don't want to be subscribed. I don't want to have to pay for 5 of them, 7 of them every month. But if every single streaming service that made an exclusive movie was also just like, yeah, but if you want to pay us $20, you can have this one movie. And you can just watch it whenever. It's yours forever. You know, like it's like, okay. Some people that are subscribed to your streaming service might even still buy those movies. Just be like, okay, I'd like to own a copy of it forever, sure.
I mean, none of that's fine, but none of that really has anything to do with studios funding movies that they think will make money and not choosing to not fund movies that they think won't make money.
Ultimately, though, they already played their hand when they decided to double down on streaming service. When Disney decided to pull things off Netflix and make their own streaming service, when HBO decided to totally revamp everything they were doing around a bunch of projects to push HBO Max, and I mean the safest ones being Apple, Amazon. And that's it. Yeah, Apple and Amazon are the safest one. Netflix is in trouble, actually, because they're the only thing they have going for them is that they've been the first, and they've lucked out with a whole lot of good stuff every now and then. But I mean, they're also the home of the Netflix adaptation meme.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I mean, it's not like everything they do is incredible. So I don't know if they've got that kind of cushion. I know Disney right now kind of does not. They're losing money everywhere, and I think that a lot of people there are panicking. But Amazon is fine. They could delete Prime Video tomorrow, and there would be no skin off their back at all. And Apple would be totally fine because they don't need to do Apple TV Plus really at all. So I mean, but that's the thing. I think that like it means that I think the only way to have it work is pare down to only the essential streaming services, and all the other studios need to just license to those, or make it so that there are a bunch of different streaming services. You're never going to subscribe to all of them, but there's a standard thing where every time a movie comes out on any one of them, you can buy it from whatever digital retail storefront you buy from. and it's available on everything because
that's fair.
Like I think that would be a way to do it, where the industry could keep making money and could make all money for ticket prices, you could say. But I think that like the theater system, I think, is going to have a lot of trouble going forward, because I think that most likely what will happen is it'll pare down to more kind of boutique theaters, where it's like, here's a theater that's going to be playing Raiders of the Lost Ark all week, and then I don't know, like Schindler's List during like Yom Kippur. I think. No, that would not be the one that is. Remembrance one. I'm mixing up my holidays. That one was the repentance one in Yom Kippur. But I'm Catholic, so I don't really know too much about it. Actually, KJ, aren't you Jewish? Don't you know about this? What's the repentance Jewish holiday?
I don't know.
No, you don't?
Huh. I don't know anything about Jewish.
I'm Protestant.
Oh, no way.
I'm researching a lot of the Israeli conflict stuff at the moment and trying to learn. That shit's crazy, but whatever. Yeah, I think I'm just like worried a little bit that that we're gonna have to rely on like Netflix and Apple to start funding original movies that are sort of unsafe for profit. And it's like there used to be a more of a concrete give and take where Oppenheimer, people are tired of superhero movies and they show that they prove it by paying to go see Oppenheimer in theaters and making it hits $1 billion almost. And it's like, it's this like give and take. It's like the audience is telling the studios what we want them to make via our money at the box office. And I'm saying that is a very efficient and effective way of communicating with these studios. And if that stops happening, how are they going to know? Like, how are we going to demand that they do more movies like Dune, or like it kind of goes away?
I think I just think it'll be slightly less effective than you think, because I honestly think most of the studios, when they say, "Oh God, Oppenheimer made a bunch of money, maybe we should stop making these popcorn movies," they'll be like, "Yeah, Oppenheimer made adult money though, but do you have any idea how much money there is in the teenagers and kids going to see movies 5 times before it leaves the theaters? We got to keep making like retarded shit for them." And the problem is they look at it like they're making retarded shit and not trying to make things that are good and just directed at younger audiences. But I think these stupidly expensive movies will still be the ones that are like basic bitch kind of normie things. Yeah. Which I mean, that doesn't mean none of them can be good. I like a lot of superhero movies, but
Five Nights at Freddy's is going to make a lot of money. Now, probably it's also on Peacock, so it might drop significantly.
I don't know how many.
I mean, it's going to have a big second week drop off. Yeah,
I don't know a single person that subscribes to Peacock, unless you guys are, and but
that's
then
how I watched it.
You will be the then Lofty. You are the first person who has ever told me that you were subscribed to Peacock.
Well, I'm not, but my brother is. My brother has.
It's not even you.
My brother has everything.
Okay, fair enough, but not everyone has a brother who has everything, and I'm thinking most people aren't paying Peacock for NBC stuff once a month. And probably wouldn't be the ones to sign up just to watch Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm willing to bet those.
So much money.
But that's the thing. I'm willing to bet those people they're going to the theater if they want to see. If they're there, Five Nights at Freddy's fan. What did she say that also?
She said Friday Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, okay. I mean, maybe we live in the same house. She's catching my retardation. But anyway, I mean, well, there you go. Roast me too. I've never played one of the games, so she actually has. So she has less.
Well, she was on FNT, and then Gary was like, then she was like, "Yeah, I saw Friday Nights at Freddy's," and everyone. It was funny. It was funny.
I don't think she saw the movie. I think she played the game.
The games.
Yeah,
the games.
She played the game on stream. She wasn't too crazy about it, but I never played one, so I couldn't tell you anything about it. But anyways, I think though that. Those type of movies will still make money in the theaters, but they're anomalies, because it's either something like Oppenheimer, which is a Christopher Nolan movie, which, yeah, that's going to rile up a whole huge crowd of people who will really want to see that movie, even if it is a 3-hour-long R-rated movie. But most 3-hour-long R-rated movies are not going to make a ton of money. The thing that I think a lot of the major studios put their stock in is that most of the money will be made on things that they don't have to put a lot of effort into at all. They just shit it out, and it happens to make them $1 billion. And the easiest way for them to try to guarantee that that'll happen is to cast the widest net they possibly can. And it's why things eventually turn into gray sludge. That seems exactly like the last thing that came before it.
Yeah,
and I mean that's not always the case, because sometimes a good director or a good writer just slips through the cracks and makes something pretty decent.
Blumhouse is the epitome of casting the widest net possible and just hoping for it to like find a gem.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're gonna take $30 million and make 25 $1.2 million horror movies.
Yeah,
and one of them will become a cult hit at Halloween. Or something. Hey,
Insidious. something like pops, like Black Phone or something like unexpected becomes popular or whatever,
or even the Meg one, Megan. Megan was a movie that people are constantly asking me if I've seen it. I'm just like, no. It's like, why has everyone seen this movie? I don't know anyone that went to go see it.
It's a meme, dude. It's a meme because she's an AI girl that does cartwheels. Like, it's just a meme, really. It's not a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was great, but it seemed to be a movie that was kind of taking off from a popularity standpoint. So I was like,
kind of bothered me.
Maybe there's something to this. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like.
But at the same time, there's often not. Is my point. Like Transformers is a movie that really popped up at the box office as well too. Or like all those movies essentially.
Except I did not expect
the most recent one. The most recent one, like
the most recent one tanked. Yeah, I think in general we are heading towards. Several streaming services probably going down, and a lot of these big expensive movies are probably going to get dialed back pretty big.
Well, they're gonna be acquired by whatever Apple or Disney's going to acquire fucking Peak or somebody's.
I don't know. I think a lot of them are going to be trying to get out of the streaming game, because I think a lot of them are realizing how much of a pain in the ass it is to host all those servers and to have all the maintenance and to make new features and make new versions and updates. And Disney never had to do any of that.
Right. Disney has Hulu now. They own Hulu, right?
I mean, like, how well didn't they always own Hulu as long as Disney Plus has been around?
Well,
no, because they owned Hulu before Disney Plus launched for sure, because everyone was saying like, hey, yeah, they're definitely just going to take Hulu down. Like they bought it to kill it. And then people for a while were going to say, oh, that's where they're going to do Miramax style stuff like Disney, but it's for adults. But that didn't really happen, I don't think.
But Comcast owns part of it. So Disney, it was just announced. They're buying the rest of it's Disney is going to buy the remaining 33% stake in Hulu from Comcast for $8 billion. So that's what's happening now. They must have like 77% of Hulu or something for a while. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they honestly might just be buying it to sell it though. At the same time, they might be like, okay, I'm going to buy that extra 33% so that we have the entire asset, and then sell it to someone else who wants to do a streaming service.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to, Anyway, there's too much to talk about. Well, guys, what are you up to this month? What's going on for your November? You have any big plans?
Well, I think we're gonna start talking about Attack on Titan, right, Mark? Because that's right around the corner.
Well, I mean, start and finish, because I think it's just one more episode. Like, so, but we have
4 episodes.
No, I think there's just one. I think it's 1 hour special, right?
I thought it was 4 episodes.
That might be 4 1 hour episodes that might be cut into like an 80-minute special, maybe if they're 20 minutes each. That rough length for an anime episode. I was under the impression it was just the one day, at least from what I was looking into it.
I'll look into it. I'm a little concerned.
I didn't get a North American time though. Oh wait, don't be concerned with spoilers. I don't like it's like they've been out in the manga forever, so I feel like they're not gonna. Sorry,
I I mean, I've avoided them this long. I don't want to get spoiled the day before it comes out.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, well, don't psych yourself out for that. Like, just don't look at it. If you see a post on Twitter that has Attack on Titan stuff in it, just don't look at it.
I just mute. Yeah.
I find I don't even need to like mute words or stuff like that. It's just, if I know Attack on Titan's coming out and there's spoilers coming up, if I see anything that looks like that kind of art, it's like, whoop, go right past that, and then
yeah.
I didn't focus on it. I didn't study what it was.
But there's one of the massive problems is apparently the new trailer gives so much shit away in the trailer.
Apparently, according to digitalspy.com, the second and final special will be followed by the celebratory global event running from November 5th to November 8th. Special 2 is expected to close in 85 minutes.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Part 3, final episode.
That's about
baby. Yeah, Rocky's excited.
Yeah, I'm reading about it too. That's crazy. Yeah, apparently everybody's saying don't watch the trailer because they give stuff away.
I wasn't planning on it. I don't generally watch trailers for things I know for sure I'm going to go see.
That's true. I don't.
I'm just like, oh no, I'm good. I'll see it when I get there.
Did you watch the Kingdom of Planet of the Apes trailer today?
Oh, that released today. Yeah, I didn't see that.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's not Matt Reeves doing it, right?
Cool. No, it's somebody else. But it looks great. I mean, I love that franchise.
I guess I don't trust when a trilogy is done and it's good, and then they say, "Oh, we're making more." I don't trust it to be great until it's out. Like, let it come out and then I'll get excited. I don't need to watch the trailer for that one either. I think I'll just be like, let me hear it's really good from a lot of people first.
Yeah, I don't. I want. Yeah, that's the thing. I want to know because the trailer looks good, but like so did Jurassic fucking World Dominion and all that. But it's directed by the guy who did Maze Runner. So it could be shit, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I just love that trilogy. It's one of my favorite modern trilogies or modern day franchises. It's an example of a good one, not a bad one. Like there's so many bad reboots these days.
Mark, did you ever give your top 3 Scorsese, or was it just Lofty?
I just did. Just me.
Top 3 Scorsese movies? Probably Goodfellas, Raging Bull, and Departed. Or actually, I'll say Wolf of Wall Street over Departed.
Okay.
Those are probably my 3 as well. Maybe replace Wolf of Wall Street with Raging Bull, but I'd have to watch it again to be sure. So I'm just gonna mirror you because I haven't seen Raging Bull in a little while.
I mean, again, I could switch Wolf of Wall Street or Departed on any. Oh, and Gangs of New York too, though. Gangs of New York
is pretty good. Yeah.
Damn it! See, it's tough. It's almost an because it's like, well, how am I rating them against each other exactly? How have I determined these 3? Yeah. And I don't know. I think I could change my answer on any given day.
Do you like Hugo?
I've never seen it. Never saw it. I heard it wasn't very good.
But Hugo was okay.
It's good. It's good.
It was fine. It was fine. Yeah.
I mean, it's Scorsese.
Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. It was fine. I enjoyed it.
I think Aviator is very underrated. That's in my top 3. But
I need to rewatch it.
Mean Streets is fucking great. Cape Fear is really good.
I keep on forgetting that Cape Fear was Scorsese. I mean, I guess it makes tons of sense, but
the King of Comedy and the Taxi Driver are just, for some reason, I've always loved those. And then the Joker came out and it like mirrored both of them. And I love the Joker. Maybe I'm biased. I could be biased, but I fucking love Joker.
Yeah, I love the Joker. I think Joker's great.
So good, man. It's very powerful. Very powerful.
I think, again, also one of the best comic book based movies are like superhero world characters. But yeah, I like the offbeat ones though. Like, again, like Unbreakable.
Like Watchmen? Do you like Watchmen?
I like Watchmen. I don't love it, but Unbreakable, V for Vendetta, The Crow. Like I like a lot of movies like that are kind of they're one and done, and they're not the typical Marvel, kind of colorful deal. Which I mean, again, I like a lot of the Marvel movies too, so I'm not saying that that's always bad.
I know. People like
I sort of like the edgy boy ones.
Yeah, look, I get this a lot. People are like, "Oh, you're a snob, Lofty," but like, I'm not because some of my favorite movies are because mainly because I complain a lot about like people not supporting good like art films. But on the other hand, my favorite movies are Jurassic Park, The Matrix, Kill Bill. Like, I'm not a fucking. I understand.
Yeah, Kill Bill's on my list.
You know, and I love Infinity War. I'm a big, and I think that movie is like one of the greatest action films ever made. Honestly, I consider it an action.
It's uniquely positioned to be exactly what it is, and it achieves that very well. I think it does, but you could say that the movie that is in almost the exact same position is Endgame that I don't think achieves that nearly as well. And I think that's actually the best way to kind of look at how good Infinity War is. To be like, there's the difference between them almost getting there from a spectacle standpoint, or exceeding it, I guess, depending on what your perspective is on. Although I think that last battle in Endgame is at least a pretty impressive thing to have happen on screen, even if the narrative weight of it, I think, is kind of fucked by the fact that it's not the same Thanos. So it's sort of like, well,
but
why does this Thanos even hate them at all? Like, no, but it is though. I mean, that's the thing. Like when you look at the writing, it's like, no, this Thanos seems to have a real problem with the Avengers, even though he's never met any.
Right. Well, but they explain it. They show that he saw his future, and he wants to overcome it. And he says, "I don't know who you are."
Yeah, and that's
I don't even know who you are.
But that's he's not the same guy. Like it's
right.
It'd be like if Darth Vader was just swapped out with a different guy who it's like, yeah, this is also Darth Vader, but he hasn't gone through any of the stuff that we saw him go through in Return of the Jedi. It's like that's what Disney's doing with Star Wars, anyways. They just keep on bringing Darth Vader back.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think the Endgame is good because of the hero side of it, not necessarily the villain. It's the culmination of everything we've ever seen coming together through Doctor Strange portals and then charging at a bunch of bad guys. Like it's very simple.
Sure, but at the same time, it's like, well, you didn't have to kill him off in the first scene of the movie. And you didn't necessarily have to revert him to being just Thanos, but more evil this time, even though it's the same guy just from the past. And it's apparently not destroying it's not creating what's it called?
You had to kill him off because he has no motivation. Well, he had no motivation.
Okay, now you got to write something, don't you?
Yeah, but
that's what I mean. It's like, he has no motivation. It's like, okay, well, how about he looks at what he does and thinks about it? I mean, they had him do it in the fight in Endgame, though. They had the new Thanos be like, you know what? Maybe I'll just destroy 100% of the life in the universe. It's like, why? Why are you thinking that?
Because anything they write would undermine. I totally disagree. Anything they write would have totally undermined his complete cathartic victory in that opening and ending to Infinity War. It would
then have the balls to make Infinity War be the end of the Infinity Saga and have that scene where it's like they kill Thanos be the post-credits scene, and then just be like, yeah, there's no part 2. No, we just lost all those people.
That's bad.
No. That's what we're so important. Lofty. You cannot be making the argument that the only thing they possibly could have done is plucked the same bad guy out of an earlier time and it's been like, yeah, now he's here now and big fight, boom, go.
No,
it's still Thanos. It's still Thanos, even though it's not at all.
Left Thanos alone and came up with some other sort of conflict, but
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, have Infinity War be if you want to say this cathartic thing where he's finding his victory is finalized, then don't have the whole movie be about going back in time to make his cathartic victory not happen in the first place, and then ruin his character by saying, that guy that would have had that sort of arc where he had to deal with giving up his daughter who he actually did kind of love. Like, we're just going to have that guy never exist because he gets killed by the Avengers while he doesn't properly understand exactly what he would end up needing to go through. They rob Thanos of that arc entirely. They flat out blink it out of existence. It just doesn't happen.
No, it happens.
I mean, like, no, but like that Thanos never comes to be now because they've killed that guy. So it's like if his story was so great, it's you basically just took that character and then went back in time before he had all that great character development, and we're just like, boom, you're dead now because this version of you is slightly more evil because you have less information. You know, like it's like I don't think there's a way that you can say they could do it cleanly if it's like, well, we want Thanos to win, but then we also want them to come back and beat Thanos. It's like, well, his victory is either permanent or it's not, and it wasn't. And if you want to use time travel to get it there, maybe sure. But it maybe have Thanos be trying to stop them from acquiring the time travel and have that be the majority of the movie, where Thanos is actually wanting to be like, oh no, you're not taking my work away from me by going back in time. I have the time stone or whatever. The time stone's gone. There's no way to do that. And then maybe have Thanos be a guy without a big army of people or lieutenants and stuff. And he's like the one very, very powerful character who's going up against this big team of people all trying to undo what he did. Like, I think that would have been more interesting. You wouldn't have been able to have a big, large scale battle with Thanos has a new army. Unless you have Thanos do something like,
I like what they did.
I think it was Atari army and stuff and be like, yeah, now you gotta fight these guys.
7 out of 10. It's like a 7 out of 10. But it's like they had some issues with time travel. They sort of were a little cliche with some of the time travel stuff. But
everyone in the blink is
perfect. The battle was incredible. It was very, I got goosebumps. Some of the time travel stuff was funny and great. I thought the Iron Man stuff with his dad was perfect.
I mean, sure, yeah, but I mean, like, it's they still ruin the antagonist. That's kind of more what I'm talking about than the mechanics of the time travel and things like that. I'm thinking though that if you're saying that the important thing is that Thanos's cathartic victory, where he like just says, "Nope, my work is done, and I retire now. I'm not any of your problems. You just get out of here." And then they end up murdering him kind of in cold blood because he's not really like fighting at that point. He's more just on being like, yeah, no, leave me alone, get out of here, flies. And then like they cut his head off, right? So it's like you didn't have to have that happen if you wanted to make it so that Thanos now is a more almost understandable character who's done a terrible thing that is obviously not something that's like the right thing to do, no matter how bad you are at thinking about math and how resources work, because resources don't work where if you cut out 50% of the never mind. But that's not how that works. But I mean, like it's less important than the fact that it's like, okay, if the value of his ending in Infinity War is the thing that needs to be protected, nothing that happens in Endgame preserves it. I'm
just saying all I'm saying is whatever you presented also doesn't preserve it. So that's all.
But I'm saying that you've got to accept that you can't preserve that if he's the villain that you have to defeat. You got to either not make him the villain anymore or make it so that he's not done. He has something else he needs to do. Otherwise, he's just not the villain in your story anymore. And I think going back and plucking out an earlier version of him who's just...
But I don't think Endgame had to have an even better Thanos. I think it was okay to accept that Thanos... It's not really about Thanos anymore.
It's not that Thanos though. Like it does have an even better Thanos. Now this Thanos who's more evil and has a bigger army. They weren't satisfied with just having it be Thanos, the character that you developed over the course of that whole film, Infinity War, that came out. It was directed by the same people.
It was about the heroes coming together. It wasn't about Thanos anymore. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to have another bigger, even stronger.
I'm sorry. No, but you do need to have a threat, though. You need to have a threat that feels like an
Thanos. The Infinity Gauntlet. The Infinity Gauntlet was still an issue and a problem, and it was, the problem with Endgame. It's very convoluted the way they had to come together and kind of solve this with time travel. That's the main problem. It's not Thanos is not a bad. He's not the worst part of Endgame. He's actually like. Not bad, but it's like it's cool how he kind of realizes his death and then like tries to fix it. Like I actually kind of like that part of the movie.
I don't know.
The worst part of Endgame is the convoluted timeline stuff. That has nothing to do with Thanos. It's just that's the worst part of Endgame. And
I do think that I will say that I think the worst part of Endgame is the fact that it doesn't feel like it has an effective antagonist. It doesn't because
I don't care about it. I just don't care about
but the thing is, like, you're talking about the ultimate superhero movie. So for them to not be fighting like trying to stop a compelling antagonist, I think is not a whole lot to ask for. Should the villain of the culmination of your entire superhero franchise?
No, he won. He won.
But
no, that villain won.
But he didn't though, because they turn back time and they take his victory away. He didn't win.
Right, but I'm
either
saying,
way he loses.
I'm saying he won and he was killed, and in his mind he won and he had this catharsis, and his ending was like kind of actually awesome. Now, he doesn't know all this stuff happened afterwards, but I'm saying if they gave him another, problem to solve and something, I would rather have his ending be the way it was, which is like he's on his own. It's very much like the comics. Like he goes off on his own, his little farm, and has this quiet sort of contemplative ending, to that part of the thing. But I don't know. I really think they should have done Lady Death instead of the whole thing anyway. But I think Lady Death would have been a more interesting storyline than.
Well, I mean, there you go. Like, even just having her be a character or a presence in Infinity War, if you wanted, you could have then set Endgame up to be the one where she's the primary antagonist, because they're not doing one-to-one to the comics anyways. But I mean, there you go. You just gave an example of like, here's another antagonist they could have used. I'm like, yeah, that's
no, but people love Thanos.
We're thinking, we're coming up with ideas, and I think just like, well, let's just make it Thanos, but it's from earlier, and he's a dick still, and he has an army.
No, but
whatever.
They
people like it because all the heroes will be there.
Yeah, enough people love Thanos to the point where they were like, well, we have to continue. We have to do this time travel thing.
I don't accept that as a valid argument, because it's like, it's the thing with Star Wars and Vader, though.
Yeah,
it's like, because people say, oh well, people love Darth Vader, though. You got to have Darth Vader. It's like, no, you fucking don't. Stop putting him in everything. It's stupid. It devalues him and it makes it silly. So like, I don't know. It's kind of the way I see that. It's like, I don't necessarily think give the people what they want and overexpose a villain and make it so that he's been defeated by every single minor character in that universe. I mean, that's the Vader problem. But mostly anytime Vader has appeared in a video game, it's like Vader's been beaten.
If they did something else and we didn't end up getting that Tony Stark, snapping ending, I would be disappointed. I would rather have Endgame than what. And if they can't give me Tony Stark saying I am Iron Man and snapping his finger, I don't even.
I mean, why can you not do that in any other scenario than Thanos saying I am inevitable? You can have literally any character say I am anything and then follow it up with him saying I am Iron Man.
I know, but I'm saying
that's what I mean. Like, it's not that line doesn't hinge on Thanos.
Yes,
is what I'm
saying. It hinges
saying.
on the Infinity Gauntlet, which is what I'm saying. So then you have to have sort of
but if they're still using I mean, it's not technically the Infinity Gauntlet that Tony Stark uses. He uses Stark nanotech.
They could have done a bunch. They could have made a bunch of villains in substitute for Thanos, and they all could have been terrible. Like, it could have been another Ultron.
Maybe, sure, yeah.
So you're giving examples. It's almost like you're guaranteeing that whatever they do would have been better, and it's just you're wrong. Like, it could have been worse.
No, I'm not. I'm not wrong, because whether or not it's better is still up to the writers to ensure.
I know, but I'm just saying.
And it's like, I'm not saying that
they should have tried something else.
Okay, but you also said that you didn't want it to be the same Thanos because you wanted him to just have his victory. Right. And I was like, well, that's the thing, though. It's like sometimes you got to decide: do I want this thing that doesn't work with this thing because I can't do them both? And then you got to be deciding which one is more valuable. Is that moment at the end where Thanos dies thinking he won? I mean, sure, you could say that that's beautiful in its own way, but ultimately it's like, well, you still hacked off the head of the unstoppable threat from the previous movie in the first 5 minutes of this one. So, I mean, what's our villain here? Now, if their whole thing was just, hey, Endgame is just a drama where for the next 2 hours, we're going to deal with this like post half of the heroes dying world. And then it's just going to end. Yeah, that's a way you could do it. And it probably would be more artistically sound. no one would want to watch that though, because that's going too far in that direction. But I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying just either have Thanos not die and have there be a reason that he is trying to stop the heroes from doing whatever they are doing. That does not have to be he has a big army of generic people that they can have a big war with at the end, or at least not at first. You can probably write a way to make it so that he realizes the only way he's going to be able to stop the Avengers from taking away his thing is if he has an army, because he can't do it on his own and all of his forces are gone. He doesn't have the resources. So maybe he has to find a way to figure out a way to use their time travel to get back in time, to find like the Chitauri or something, if you want to bring something back from the original Avengers movie. Or
it could be fine, but
or have him find any number of evil armies that could exist on Earth in the MCU right now too.
But then then you don't have Natasha's death and that whole part.
Why not? Why not? Why are they not trying to do the same stuff they were? Why do they have to pull Thanos from the past? That's what I'm talking about. Everything the Avengers do can be the exact same. I'm saying that why does the final big battle have to be against Proto Thanos, who's not the same character that was in Infinity War? He's the same character who was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Villain. It would have to be some other villain.
Would it, or could it just be Thanos, the same Thanos from the previous film who was alive at the end of the previous film? You know, like, I mean, I don't see this world in which the only possibility is killing Thanos in the first 5 minutes.
I just don't see it as a negative. We just disagree. I don't see him as being an earlier version of himself as a negative, and I just don't agree. I think
it's not the same character. It's got no narrative weight.
Why is that bad?
Because it has no narrative weight. Why would you want there to be no narrative weight?
It has a
Why would you not want the final battle?
It has a guy who realized his own death and then is trying to change it. That's totally different.
That's retarded too. Like, really, him realizing his own death. But I mean, everyone's going to know that they die. But to think that he would just all of a sudden become a genocidal maniac who has abandoned his whole code that he was operating on, it's not given anywhere near the care that his story in Infinity War is given.
Right.
So that's like, well, I mean, why would you mess him up like that? Because you just established that this dude was actually kind of morally complex, and then you turn him into a comic book supervillain, literally, like the stereotypical version of what people would make fun of something by calling it a comic book villain. It's
realistic. I mean, that's how he would act if he found out that he died in the future, and his. And no, he wouldn't, because if he died in knowing that he won in that beautiful, sublime moment that you're talking about, he would be trying to do everything he could to make that happen exactly the way it did. So, like, I mean, I feel like that wouldn't be what that Thanos, because otherwise, why would he have been so okay with dying? I'm saying he tries to kill all of humanity because he realizes that they're always going to try to fix the problem if he only takes half measures. And it's like it makes complete sense. Like,
why is does he mean humanity, or does he mean all the rest of life in the universe? Because it sounds like that's what he's talking about.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
But I mean, that's retarded though. If you're gonna make the argument that no, but he's a guy. No, he wasn't insane in Infinity War, though.
I think he was. I think his philosophy was stupid. I think they should have had Lady Death.
Okay,
they should have had Lady Death. The whole philosophy is...
He's wrong, Lofty. I didn't say he wasn't wrong. I said he wasn't insane. He believed in what he was doing.
Insane. The population argument is dumb. It's been debunked. It's stupid. The problem is, I know. The problem is you're acting like he was like the greatest villain in the history of like the universe, and he wasn't. He was a good villain. But
he was
you're taking it too seriously.
I mean, you were saying that Infinity War was the best movie in the Marvel universe, right?
Yes, he had a great ending. Yeah, there was flaws to it.
But I mean, you don't think that the movie mostly focused on Thanos was possibly a good movie because of Thanos?
No, he's a great villain. He just could have been better it could have been a better storyline. I still think his agency was sort of...
So your argument now is that Infinity War is the one that could have had a better Thanos story than Endgame.
I've always said this. I've always said they should have done Lady
You don't
Death.
think Endgame could have possibly done any better with Thanos than they did? And you're saying that the Infinity War didn't really get him
no,
right.
I'm saying it's fine.
Like, I mean, come on, man.
Fine. I'm saying Endgame is fine. I think people hate on Endgame too much. I'm just defending it.
It is fine. It's just not. It's not the masterpiece that a lot of people call it.
No. Most people say Endgame is much worse than Infinity War.
I don't know. Talk to some MCU people, man. Like they'll talk about Endgame as if it's the best thing that's ever happened to cinema.
That's because the fucking Doctor Strange portals. That's really the only reason.
I mean, maybe sure, but like,
they have this irrational.
I also don't accept the argument that but the Doctor Strange portals, best movie ever. Like, I'd be like, well, that's not very strong.
Yeah, but they have this irrational thing where they're like, that's the best culmination of the last 10 years of ever, but they don't really assess the problems with the movie, like the time travel stuff and like some of the Thanos stuff or whatever. Like, it's just, but I'm just saying it's not like a terrible idea. It's just sort of and it makes sense that he would want to just kill everybody. It just does because he has the gauntlet. He can create.
I think that part makes the least sense because it totally abandons the whole idea of him feeling that he was doing what was necessary for the universe.
Yeah.
Like it really just shits on his whole moral code from Infinity War. It just pretends like it was never a thing he cared about at all. It was a whim he had one time during that Infinity War movie, but really he wanted to murder everybody. And I'm like, well, if you were going to hold that one in your pocket, why not just have Thanos be the guy at the end of the movie who's like, yeah, you know what? I'm developing my thoughts and, all life needs to vanish. So I'm going to find another way to kill all the rest of you. And then have the Avengers be like, well, he did succeed the last time. So maybe we should take him more seriously now.
Right. It is a little gimmicky. It's like, I understand what you're saying. He sort of changed his mind like on the fly because he realized like they didn't really give him that much of a perfect motivation to like change his mind other than seeing himself die. But they didn't have him grapple with like his own conscience about it. He just kind of decided to kill him.
And they tried to do the same thing in Loki with Loki. They'd be like, oh, he sees his death and now he gets all this character development downloaded into himself. It's like,
but
sorry,
that makes more sense to me. I think Loki
I don't know, man,
has always had those sort of emotions and he's conflicted. I don't think Thanos
I think Avengers era Loki was much more just a flat out villain. Like he was in a very, very villainous place at that time. I'm not sure that he would have even believed.
Yeah.
Sorry?
He died a hero. I mean,
but Loki didn't die. That Loki was the villain from the Avengers film who's brought
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he's always had this sort of heroic, weird, suppressed kind of emotional side to him. He's always had it. Always. You can see it.
Sure. I still don't think I don't think you can show the Master of Illusions a video and get him to totally change his personality. Like I think he'd be like, well, you might have just made this, like I could make this. I'm the Master of Illusion.
No. I think they could have they wrote Loki's it's just bad.
They didn't take their time, man. They did that too early. They didn't have him be the Avengers Loki for an appreciable enough amount of time and have him go through some experience that could maybe get him closer to the Loki that sees the video, and then have Owen Wilson just be like at the end of season 1 or something like that. I think you're ready to see this. This is you from the other timeline.
I'm just saying,
so you know, this is what happened.
And
then that could be a moment, have him cry. And it would be earned, but doing it in the first episode is kind of dumb because it's like you just fast track him to be a redeemed villain, and now he's trying to be a hero and do the right thing. It's like, no.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The idea of it is fine because I said he has always been sort of this not quite pure evil person, but they rushed it. That's my problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they rushed it huge.
Yeah. But people are saying Loki could. The major problem I have is people are like, Loki should always be a villain and never have a character arc, and I'm just like,
that's not necessarily true. No, that wasn't true in the movies either.
Yeah,
in any of the movies, he's always. In Avengers, yes, but in Thor, Dark World, and Ragnarok, there's always a bit of like, oh, but what if Loki is good now?
Right.
And to the point that it was kind of tedious, actually, but. I think that
doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah. So then I think that that's why once it's like, hey, you made a point to actually kill him in Infinity War. It's like, oh, well, at least they did that properly this time. And then they brought him back for a Disney Plus show.
Well, if in another universe, if all these Disney Plus shows were written by competent people, I think we could have had a Loki where he is the hero, and it would have been great. But not this version. This version is rushed. It's poorly paced, and there's just nonsense. People are teleporting all over the place. It doesn't make any sense.
It's
like why can't they teleport? Why can they teleport here, but they can't teleport in the next scene for some reason? And they have to ride an elevator. Like, what is happening? Doesn't make
because
any sense.
Everyone who writes for the MCU now are like former Rick and Morty writers. So it's just like, oh well, like let's just be wild and crazy. It's comic book world. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Let's just have shit happen.
Although
some people walk through portals at any time and end up wherever or whenever.
To be fair, the last episode killed some people off in clever ways I thought was fun. And I don't know, I hope they can reset some sort of timeline. And maybe now the show will be tolerable. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I don't know. I'm out. I'm totally out on the MCU. I don't think there's a single MCU project I care about at all.
Yeah.
And I for the longest time I was like, well, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I like the Guardians movies, but even Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's okay. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's great. And
no, they're not great. They're not great.
And what's left? What do I care about? What's the next thing that I will have to see from the MCU? And I can't even think of a single example. I can't think of a single example of a movie that's even on the horizon that I'm going to give a single shit about. So yeah, I'm definitely not watching the Disney Plus series.
That's fair. They need to come out. They probably need to
maybe a Spider-Man movie. I guess I might still go see a Spider-Man movie. But
I was excited for Blade until a couple of days ago.
No, I was never excited for Blade because I knew it was going to be PG-13 Blade because it's Disney. Just like they're gonna do. I guarantee you, Deadpool is going to be PG-13. Mark my words, because everyone's just like, "Oh no, they said it was going to be rated R." I was like, "Yeah."
Well, now
they also released a PG-13 version of Deadpool 2 into theaters. So
now they're replacing Kang with what, Dr. Doom or something? There's no
who knows,
no future. I thought they were going to do Secret Wars and fucking basically, if you read the comic, Secret Wars comic book, there's two versions. I don't know what version they were trying to do, but the one I read is the 2015 version where all of the multiverse timelines get squashed into one timeline, and like God Emperor Dune like runs the whole world, basically the universe, and the main characters are the Fantastic Four. Reed Richards, Franklin Richards is in it, and that to me could be a great transition period out of the multiverse back into like an interesting, simple storytelling, but they got to get out of this Kang stuff. Is fucking.
I think I'm just at the like I'll believe it when I see it kind of point with all superhero movies essentially. I mean, I guess if the James Gunn DC stuff ends up looking really good, I do like James Gunn, so
I like Batman.
I might check that out.
I like.
Are they even going to make a second one of those?
They're doing it. It's just the writer's strike.
Really? I mean, because I heard it didn't make tons of money, and then I knew they had plans to, but I've not heard anything about it actually happening. Like, do they have a shoot? Did they have a script?
Oh yeah, they have. I think Freeze is rumored to be in it, Mr. Freeze.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I mean, if they're shooting it now or something like that, then that might be a different story. But I was under the impression that the future of Robert Pattinson Batman was up in the air.
It's currently set for 2025. It's part of James Gunn's. It says, well, it's hard to say. Actually.
Well, no, he said it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like he actually specifically said, no, that it's not Robert Pattinson's Batman who's going to be in my universe.
Oh, this is what? No. Matt Reeves signed a large deal recently with DC Studios to develop the Batverse. Now, this is something that I'm kind of looking forward to if they do it. They're already doing it with Colin Farrell's Penguin, right? They're doing the Penguin TV show. And Arkham Asylum show, and they're doing the Batman 2. It's currently in pre-production. So that kind of has some good
I mean, I think the Penguin show will happen if it's already shot. I don't know if they'll ever release it unless it's very good. If they don't end up making Batman 2, but again, like if they're not shooting it, especially with the current state of DC, like I'm not believing anything's happening for sure unless they are rolling camera on it right now. And even then, remember, Batgirl was like finished. And they just decided to scrap the whole thing, and that had Michael Keaton Batman in it. So I mean, again, like that's the thing. So, like, considering that, can you really like I can't put it out of the realm of possibility they might be like, yeah, we're not making another $200 million Batman movie while we're trying to reboot another cinematic universe that has nothing to it.
It could be 80 million. The Batman is easy to do low budget. I don't understand.
I mean, sure, but like, will they?
I hope. I don't know. They have to know how stupid they were doing. Like, there's such an easy. I don't understand. Like, why it's not difficult. Like, why is it easy for Dune to be cheap and profitable and like effective and not a Batman movie? Like,
part of it, I believe, is that, or at least what I've heard, is that. Denis Villeneuve previses everything, like he storyboards out every single
that's exactly the case.
And the Marvel method has been shoot from the hip, no previs at all. Go right to everything being happening in camera against green screens, and then we'll fix it in post and put out the whole rest of the movie in afterwards. It's like, well,
yeah, but I think the Batman was super gritty and super. I don't think they did that with the Batman. I'm pretty sure Matt Reeves
was shot on the volume, so it was done by a similar method to a couple. It looks pretty good. Don't get me wrong; they did a pretty good use of it, I would say. But it is like an entirely green screen movie. So I mean, there is that. So it probably wasn't cheap, is what I'm saying. Like, I mean, as much as they're doing it to be like, okay, yeah, you get to stay inside at all times. It's like, yeah, but you also need to computer animate this entire film now, because you might have a hallway or something that's an actual set, but the doorway at the end of the hallway is green screen, and then everything in the big wide open area is like, yeah, they were still on that same like 100 square yard set. And there was no city. It's just they were on a green set.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I don't really. I'm just more interested in stuff like the Killer that comes out this week.
Yeah, that should be interesting. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Silent Night. Joel Kinnaman.
I mean, that's the violent
Christmas Punisher. Yeah, is John Woo?
That could be fun. John Woo. John
Woo making Christmas Punisher. I'm up for it.
Yeah, that looks great. But no, The Killer is David Fincher's movie. It comes out this week. I'm gonna watch it. I think it might be. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up. Elseworlds. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, like different worlds.
DC. DC stories that don't take place in Earth 1.
Okay.
Earth Prime.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I only saw the Avengers movies once, so I couldn't really comment on what you guys are talking about. I enjoyed the debate. It was nice and passionate. But yeah, I only saw those movies once, so you guys are bringing stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, that did happen in that movie. That's right. I was like, Mark is right. That did happen in that movie. Yeah, I saw them once in theaters, and that when they came out, I haven't seen them since. I remember liking them. I remember thinking, 6 out of 10. That was a nice entertaining time. I enjoyed it.
That's the good thing about.
So yeah,
but that's the good thing about Phase 3. What Phase 4 was that? Phase 4?
That was Phase 3, I believe. Yeah.
Phase 3. That's the good thing about the old Marvel stuff, which is even like if we have a debate about something, like disagree, it was so impactful that we're both passionate about wanting it to be better. You know what I mean? Like now, I'm not gonna debate I would kind of disagree with you a little bit about Loki, but I don't even care. Like, it's just bad writing. So like, I don't care about debating about any of this modern stuff. I don't even want to talk about this new stuff. I would love to talk.
I'm at the point where if the dying body of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was lying on the street as I walked past, I would not shoot it because I would not think it would be worth the ammo.
Yeah, I'm just like...
That's the worst place to be, right? Just complete apathy. Like, that's
right.
It's not even worth my bullet, man. I'm walking right by.
Movies that the old Marvel movies, even the ones I don't like, I was still like irritated that they didn't get it perfectly. Like now, if a movie sucks, I'm just like, I think about it for like a minute and then I move on with my life. Like it doesn't matter anymore. That's why they're losing the culture war and they're losing money and everything. So,
well, I mean, because most of the franchises that people got really passionate about are at the point where they're kind of done now. Like,
now Variety's like bring back Tony Stark in their new article.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to care, really. I really don't. I don't think that that's going to be enough at this point, because I think it'll be like, well, wait, it's like, okay, Tony Stark's coming back, but I mean, do I have to watch 9 Disney Plus shows to understand what's happening here? Like, I think a lot of people are like, wait, Marvel? No, whatever. That was like 5 years ago that we like that. Now we're on to new things.
Even if it makes complete sense, it's still, which it won't, but it's still cowardly to like retreat into your shell and only make things that used to be good because you're afraid to be innovative and artistically ambitious anymore, and you're terrified of your own audience, so you're just like, I'm gonna bring back Tony because everybody likes Tony. It's literal cowardice from these studios. They can't just be bold anymore and do something. You know what would be bold is if they ended the multiverse like tomorrow and started doing very simple things like make an X-Men, bring in the X-Men, bring in the Fantastic Four, and just do fucking cast the characters appropriely, tell the stories that they did in the comic books, bring in Silver Surfer, do X-Men versus the X-Men Avengers is a good comic book actually, crossover, but I'm just saying that would be bold if they just said fuck the multiverse and then just like started doing smaller Batman stuff.
I think they might be at the point though that if they want to recover anything, you're talking full reboot. Like I don't think they could salvage what they have now. They've spent a lot of time just making really bad stuff. Like
it's true, but the reboot could. What about, like I said, Secret Wars, where they smash all the timelines together, and it is sort of a reboot. But it's
again, like you're still doing multiverse shit, and I think people aren't going to go. Like, I think the second you're like, no, all the timelines are coming back. Like it's like, fuck you. I'm not.
What I'm really, what I'm
there anymore, Marvel.
What I'm really like, oh man, is like the lack of like good video games. Have you guys seen Cosmonaut Varieties Hour about a good X-Men game? Have you seen that?
Oh, there's. Yeah.
No. So if you don't know Cosmonaut Marcus, it's like a 25-minute video where he pitches what is essentially like an X-Men RPG, which essentially is like 1 part Persona, 1 part like a battler, with like different powers and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's just like, that's such an obvious idea. And he's like, it made me mad when I realized how good this idea is. And I want you to suffer with me, which is why I uploaded this video. I want you to be miserable too. Because after I'm watching it, I'm like, I'm kind of upset about this because it's so obvious. Like that's such an obvious slam dunk. Like what the fuck?
I think it's less obvious than you'd think it is though, just because it is hard to making people go to class in a video game feel fun. And I don't think that anyone who wants an X-Men RPG is going to have the patience for the pace of a Persona game.
Yeah.
Like I honestly don't. I don't think anyone is going to be happy about that.
You're going to have Wolverine. Wolverine's going to be popular probably. When
that's the kind of X-Men game that most audiences will want from an X-Men game.
I agree. RPG would be fun, but
yeah.
I mean, they could do the same thing for My Hero Academia or something like that. And like, there's plenty of ideas of a school where a bunch of people go in there are like learning to be superheroes, and that's ultimately what he's talking about there.
Because he brought up the fact that like X-Men, literally one of the most iconic things about it is the school, like Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Like that's one of the most iconic things about the X-Men.
School games aren't made in the West though, really.
Hogwarts Legacy is the school.
Hogwarts Legacy, I guess is, but it's like Hogwarts Legacy and Bully are the only two that exist. So it's not a very popular genre. And if you have something like the X-Men, most of the people that are going to buy that game are not even going to be thinking. They probably don't even know what Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters is. They might think you're just making that up. They see X-Men, they engage with like, Wolverine's the one with the fucking claws, man. Like there's no, I'm not saying all X-Men fans. I'm saying lots of gamers who just kind of know of the X-Men will buy that game and be pissed off if it's a JRPG where you have to attend class and build your relationships with the other students. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Persona. I have the Persona 5 vinyl over in my corner there. I like the Persona games. But I think that if you try to pitch an X-Men game like that, either do it on a very small budget or prepare for it to piss a lot of people off.
It's true.
And I mean, even Harry Potter, like the Harry Potter one, they really did have to action that up. They had to turn the area around Hogwarts into basically Arkham Asylum or like Arkham City, where there's people to fight everywhere.
Random and poachers and people trying to steal
and you're the Hogwarts student who's just killing them indiscriminately.
Well,
you're fighting all this crime.
Video games are crazy. There's too much to go into, but I got to get going. But thank you for joining. Look, I don't know. We're like the only people that really have talked about this movie that I know of so far. Besides Critical Drinker made a review of it, but I was just glad to talk about it because I think it's important. It's like not talking about Schindler's List. Like, why would
I like it? I just I don't. I think it's very, very, very good. I just don't think I liked it all that much. Like I don't think I did like it. I don't know. It's kind of tough to say. It's like, well,
you might have to sit with it for a year or two, and
I think they might just be like, yeah, no, it was fine. I'm probably not ever going to watch it again. Like I'm kind of there with it. Yeah. Like I said, I could probably pick any Scorsese movie to rewatch over Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right. That's fair. I agree. Actually, I would watch anything over this and The Irishman. Just because they're so long, right? Like, if this was shorter, I would watch it. But I would much rather watch. And I like this movie a lot, but I would much rather watch, like, King of Comedy or Taxi Driver or The Departed, probably over this. Anything really over this one. It's just so oppressive. It's kind of hard to sit through, even if you loved it, which I did. It's still.
Yeah,
really
it was compelling. It was a compelling story, and I think it's worth watching once for sure. Like, I would recommend people watch it once. I think most people would be more comfortable doing that at home, though, than in the theater.
Yeah. And it's an important thing to know about the history because nobody talks about it. It's actually kind of a great period of time to study and talk about. But all right. Well, thanks for joining, everybody, chat. And thanks, Shags, for being here. He left early. And Jackson, thanks for joining. And we got Napoleon. I'm doing a Napoleon. I'm going to do another one of these with a Napoleon, and I might even do. You know what's cool about Napoleon? Before I go, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm seeing it in theaters.
Yeah,
3 hours long. I don't care. It's going to be epic. Now, it's also releasing on Apple TV with a 4-hour long cut with an hour extra footage. Yep. So Ridley Scott said that he has a director's cut prepared already.
Oh, interesting.
So what I might do is watch that one again when it's in the director's cut, and I might do a little comparison thing. I don't know if I'll do a solo stream or whatever. We'll see.
What's the interval that they're releasing those? Like, are they putting like a year between them or a month?
No,
day?
I think it's probably like a month because it's or what it could be whatever. It's Apple TV, but isn't that also this movie? Flower Moon.
I think so, yes. It's Apple.
It's Apple TV.
Yeah, it's Apple.
Wait, but it's not on Apple TV. Could I have just watched this movie?
No, that's my point. No, I'm saying this movie will be in theaters for a much shorter time because Apple TV had Scorsese. They came up with a deal and they were like, we're going to put it in theaters, but we're also going to stream it. And I'm assuming they're going to shrink that window down a little bit. So you could have waited, I guess, a month or two, maybe. But here's the.
You guys wanted to talk about it. So.
I know. Napoleon has a theatrical release date of November 22nd, but it does not have an Apple release date yet. Someone said, fans can expect the film to drop on Apple TV sometime in January or February. That's the rumor, I guess. So maybe 2 months after you'll be able to watch it. But I would recommend.
I mean, honestly, that's not too much longer than your standard interval is.
Well, I mean, Oppenheimer is like almost a fucking year, dude. It's still not streaming.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, I mean the standard for most movies, like Christopher Nolan, the theater evangelist guys, which I thought Scorsese was one for the longest time. I'm surprised he's doing anything with streaming services, like deals with them. I mean,
well, so is Del Toro, and there's a lot of directors who are sort of folding.
Oh no, Del Toro's been doing stuff like that for a long time. Like he's all about using new types of technology. He even had his like whole bromance with Kojima and stuff like. I like he's never seemed to be a film purist or like movies need to be made this specific way.
Well, Nolan is now.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I mean. Like, not everyone's Christopher Nolan, who like will probably have he might very well have had it in his deal. This thing doesn't go to a single streaming service for at least a year.
Probably. They're releasing it again like next week, so I can hit $1 billion because it's like a 50 million short. That's so they're gonna put it in theaters again for a couple of weeks.
I mean, I think I'd probably pick up the 4K of Oppenheimer. I'd watch Oppenheimer again. I'd want to show Oppenheimer to like other people if they don't know much about World War II and like the research around World War II.
Yeah,
I think it's a good historical epic. But Killers of the Flower Moon, I'd be like, yeah, watch it once. I'm not going to watch it with you though.
Right, but I would say Napoleon is probably going to be much more. It's a long movie, same length, but I feel like people are gonna, because the battles and shit and like the more
there's more
filmmaking style.
There's more that you can pull people into a theater for, I think, in that. Like that's the thing about this movie. I don't know that I would say it was any more compelling than say season 1 of True Detective, which is a very compelling show. So I'm not saying that this murder mystery, I guess not really mystery, but true crime story was not very compelling. It's that it was like I just don't think it's super rewatchable. Like there's not a lot of any set pieces, right? Like not that it should have those, but I think Napoleon's the kind of movie that while being a historical epic type movie, there's we should go see this like the Battle of Waterloo at a theater. That might be something you could get. You could get a boomer to a theater to see the Battle of Waterloo, I think.
Well, dude, I think it's going to make a lot of money. I think this audio design would be fun in the IMAX with Napoleon with like cannon fire and shit. I just think that was going to be, I'm definitely going to day one watching that shit. Plus it's Ridley Scott. It's like, I mean, he's kind of also a legend in a way, similar to Scorsese. But no, you're right. True crime movies, once again, it's not really a true crime. It sort of subverts the true crime genre, and it treats the material more sort of with a little bit more of a mature perspective than a typical true crime mystery, like Killers of the Flower Moon I'm talking about. So, all right, guys. Yeah. Like, and I think that's good. I think he just didn't want to be sort of cliche about it, and it makes sense, and I respect his vision for it. So. All right, guys. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Jojo.
We're gonna go.
Jojo. My puppy's dying.
Bye, doggy.
Jojo, don't die.
On your treat.
Until next time.
Until next time, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye. Say bye, Rocky.